Hello folks, this is Roger Daniel Alcocer, creator and producer of the Magnificent World of Toys YouTube channel. It's hard to believe that well over 5.5 years ago we began this remarkable journey. We started it back in January of 2019, and many of the people featured back then were pivotal to the growth and success of the Magnificent World of Toys YouTube. So what I've gone ahead and done to commemorate our 5th year is I've taken all of our 2019 collector profiles, artist profiles, and toy store profiles and put them all together in one nifty reel so that you can watch them all at once. So without further ado, I give you the Magnificent World of Toys 2019 Marathon.
What makes toys special? I think that people remember when they were kids and the joy of having that toy and playing with that toy and, getting new toys when, Christmas or holidays, came around. My name is Kelly, and I own Kelly's Toy Stop, and I buy and sell toys, and I also collect. I have a fun job. So my husband and I both collect, sometimes little Legos or dolls. There's so many things I collect. No one in my family collects, except for my husband. I wish everybody did. It'd be easy to buy Christmas gifts, but I don't know. I just started collecting a long time ago, and I just found something I liked. I actually started with Aunt Jemima items. They had salt and pepper shakers and a syrup pourer, and then I kind of went into the memorabilia and started, you just start with one thing and then it escalates. So I don't know why I started with that, but then it turned into Barbies and, it just escalated. I wanted to open a shop up because I had so much stuff, but actually I was at another store. I had a space there and I became a partner there, and I just left there and I said, I'm going to open up a shop, and I literally went next door, found a place, and just opened up. I have been in business with my store for about 20 years. Doing this, it's been about 27 years. I think it's fun to find things for people, and I don't know, I just like that feeling, and it was something I did at the time, and I've been doing it for a long time now. We sell mostly toys and collectibles, Hot Wheels, Barbie, He-Man. Right now, the range is 80s toys, so we sell a lot of 80s toys, Star Wars, G.I. Joe, anything along those lines. What do I look for when I'm buying? We look for condition, price, of course, because I can't pay too much because I won't be able to offer it to my customers if I pay too much. And then it would be a museum, and I don't want a museum. I want to be able to sell stuff to people. And then, is it something that's popular? Is it something that people are going to want to buy? There are a few things I buy just because I like them, and I can't lie. I don't even care if sometimes if they sit on the shelf. I just like them. So. As for challenges in having this business, it's hard because when you do have a store, you have to have someone with you, because if not, I'd be here all the time. And I'm very lucky to have someone that works for me that helps me a lot. But financially, there's always challenges because you have ebbs and flows. There's months where it's good, there's months where it's not good, and you hopefully can keep it going because, you don't want that to break you. Where I used to be, I was in Anaheim on Beach and Ball, and there was a little corner there that was, we had 5 toy stores and a comic book store, which you would think would be great because it was a nice destination. And people would come and they would hit all the stores, and it was great. And then slowly, one place ended up moving to another location, and that was Fat Collectibles, moved away. Eventually got to have it closed, The comic book store left, went to a new location. The area was bad, but it was just the homeless, and they would urinate in front of the store and hang out, and you can't have people with their children walking into places like that. That was always my fear. And then eventually, Bray's Toy Mine across the street had moved to La Mirada. Things did change after everybody started dropping. So what happened was I ended up being the last one standing. You know, people still came, but it had died down a little bit, because I think whereas people would come before and spend a day hitting all the stores, you know, it became like just a quick trip. So I think people were not coming as often, so we decided to pack it up and get out of Dodge and moved into this place where we're very happy now. And other than that, I love having this business. I think I couldn't have a better profession. I get to meet a lot of nice people, and that I think is one of the best things about this. I've made some probably lifelong friends in this business. I've been doing this for so long, there's kids that have come in, and then, you know, 15 years later, they're contacting me. Remember me? You know, I used to come in, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I've watched them grow up. Through the years, I've had #1 Barbies. We bought a collection, and there was a double telescoping loop in the box of stuff that we didn't even know was in there. We've had prototypes. I've had He-Man prototypes in here. One of our gentlemen had brought some in. Really nice, rare Hot Wheels. I've had great Disney pieces that are like limited to 10 items. You just never know what's gonna walk in the door, and that's what's kind of exciting. Through the years, I've had so many things. I always think if I could have had all of the good things in one place at one time, it would be a great museum. What items sell the fastest at my shop? Right now, I would say 80s items, mostly G.I. Joe, the 3 3/4 inch G.I. Joes. Those by far sell the fastest. If we put them up on Instagram, they're sold before we even have them on the shelf for a couple hours. It doesn't last long. Star Wars as well. Star Wars, He-Man, the G.I. Joes, those are what are flying off the shelves right now that are hard to get. And we've got a great group of guys that collect those items and come in regularly and check our shelves. I'm a collector. When I see something I like, I will get it. It could be one item from this line, one item from that line, but right now I'm into Boglins. And the collector in me, I would like to have every Boglin they made. I'm working on that. I have 3 in box, and I'm looking for all the Boglins there are. So if anybody has any, let me know. The most joy for me is really just, like I said, it's the people. I love being able to find something for somebody that's looking for something. You know, if we can find it and make their day, it makes me happy. Collectors are a different kind of people. You know, we're generally happy and we love what we do, and it's just like you look for that item and you look and look, and then you find it, and then you know, their faces when they find it, they're happy, you know, and that makes me happy. So I wouldn't want to do anything else. So. Follow us on Instagram at Kelly's Toy Stop. We are located in Old World in Huntington Beach at 7561 Center Avenue, number 11. We are closed on Mondays, but we are open Tuesday through Sunday. On Sundays, we are open from 12 to 5, but every other day we're open from 12 to 6. Call us at 714-828-4577. Come on down and check it out. It's a great place.
I was always into horror. Toys, they appealed to me, so I just had to collect every single character, whether it's Freddy, Jason, Michael Myers, all the movies that I loved. I had to get a figure from each one of them. So that's how I started. I'm Jesse, also known as Hack'em Figures on Instagram. I'm a toy photographer out of Los Angeles, California. So I've been collecting since I was 12 or 13 years old. My uncle in Chicago for Christmas got me and my brother some movie Maniacs, and I fell in love with them. And then that was it until I hit high school. And then in high school is when I really got deep into collecting. I collect mostly 1/12 scale horror figures. What I mainly collect right now is the NECA figures. Mostly the retro style figures are my favorite, but I collect all the ultimate ones. The NECA Cult Classics, I got Soda Toys, the Now Playing series. When I first started collecting, I'm strictly mint on card. There can be any scratches, no dents, nothing. And then when I started getting into toy photography, things changed. I didn't care too much about the box, really. I would look at the actual figure, make sure there wasn't like wrong paint applications or warped gloves or warped accessories. I would look for that and I would open that up. But anything that I'm collecting, I still try to keep it in the box. But if it's for toy photography, I open it up right away and get busy and take pictures of it. Well, the first time I took pictures of figures was in high school. And it was a film class in high school, and we had to make a calendar of a theme. And I was thinking, okay, what can I do different? So I was like, well, I collect, so let me take pictures of my collection. So I kind of started there, but it didn't take off until maybe 2013, 2014 is when I really took off. I would start to buy like doubles of figures that I had, and would just kind of take pictures of the ones that I would open, and like kind of not review them, but take pictures of them. And then I started finding more people actually really taking pictures of figures, and that's like when I really jumped like into like the toy photography. I started off with an iPhone, and you can get really good pictures with iPhones, but eventually, if you want to get better at what you do and get like better quality shots, you go to a digital camera. And I just chose Sony A6300 because a friend of mine that did toy photography used the A6000. So I kind of just went one up. So I also do film. I've just been doing film for about a year and a half. I'm a big fan of portraits. So I want the picture to be all about the figure and not what's around it. So I usually stick to just the figure, just the whatever. If I'm shooting a Michael Myers, I just want the Michael Myers, unless I'm trying to do a movie scene. I've been collecting horror forever, so when it comes to other genres, I collect a little bit of it. I have a set of Big Trouble in Little China prototypes. I found them at a local collectible shop here in the west side, Big Lou's in Culver City, and he had them there, and I had to buy them. I mean, I couldn't let them go. So another grail is the Remco Universal Monsters, a glow-in-the-dark creature from the Black Lagoon, and that one I just bought online. It was like I saved up for it to buy it. I like wrestling. I have an official Mil Máscaras mask signed by Mil Máscaras, like his personal like masks that I got off of a convention in Arizona. That's another grail of mine. Right now I'm really big at collecting like bootleg, like lucha figures from Mexico. When I go, I kind of look for the legends, El Santo or Mil Máscaras. Like I look for those type of guys as far as like the bootlegs. I love going to different comic book shops or collectible shops. Toys R Us when it was around. To me, it's the thrill of the hunt. Mainly, I go to Frankincense. That's the spot to be at if you're here in the SoCal area. I mainly buy from the NECA lady, Nora, because that's what I collect, mostly NECA stuff. I have a collectible shop here in Culver City, Big Lou's. Every now and then I'll go there and I'll find something that I want. I have a Talking Freddy that's a grail of mine. I bought that at Big Lou's as well. I collect records. I don't have a whole lot, but I collect records, movies, shoes. Not as much anymore, but action figures took over. But I did collect a lot of shoes. And hats, of course. I always wear hats. I've been trying to get a bunch of pictures together to make a book. It hasn't been coming out. Maybe it's just the artist like not liking what he does. And hopefully I'll release it this year. We'll see. I mean, I have a sticker pack too of some of my work that I was supposed to be releasing, and I haven't done that yet. Maybe I'll do them both together as like a double pack. Don't worry about what other people think, what other people are doing. Just kind of take it slow, and eventually you'll get good at it. I'd say just do you, don't do other people. You know, you don't want to be a carbon copy of somebody else. Just kind of be yourself and kind of shoot what you like, not what other people like. Being an adult sucks sometimes, and when you get a new toy or figure, it's like Christmas, really. It's like being a kid all over again. It brings you joy, and it's, you know, you want to get out there. At least for me, I want to get out there and shoot it, and that's like our way of for toy photographers. That's our way of like still playing with our toys, I guess.
I really like dressing up. I really like making these weird characters. It was my thing. It's the thing that I do that makes me feel the most like myself and the most capable. I feel extremely lucky that I've managed to turn it into some kind of career. My name is Melita Curphy, and I'm a professional artist. I do mask making, I sculpt, I do illustration and character design. I spent a lot of time as a kid watching horror movies, stuff like Aliens, Predator, and I wanted to do creature design for a long time for the movies. But I also wanted to do comics, I also wanted to do children's book illustration, I want to be an animator, so I want to do all these different things. Mostly I want to tell stories about monsters, I want to have these characters in my head come out, put parts of myself into them. Yeah, I just want to make cool monsters. I would consider myself more of a sculptor now, for sure. Went to school for animation and illustration, but I think that there's so much more for me to explore with sculpting. I get a lot more pleasure out of sculpting. I like having the thing in my hands. I like this tangible object, piece of art. And I think with illustration, I've sort of reached as far as I can go. Like, I'm okay at it, but I'm not great. I've been sculpting since I was pretty young, seriously about 20 years. I would say I learned the majority of my sculpting skills actually being online. Being on internet forums, like the Shiflett Brothers sculpting forum was a huge help back in the day when I first got online. Talking to other sculptors, having people critique my work, and picking up little tips and tricks from them was just invaluable. My favorite clay of all is monster clay. I started using it many years ago, like when it first came out, and that really changed the way that I sculpt. I sculpted in Super Sculpey before that, but something about the way monster clay felt to me just felt right. But because I use monster clay, I also had to learn how to do casting because monster clay is not permanent. So I learned how to do silicone molds and urethane casts. For my tools, I use Ken's tools for my sculpting tools. AMC Creatures makes some great tools, like Kemper tools. When I first started making the 1/6 scale stuff, I would make these little characters and dress them up, but then I also made full-size versions of them too, where I can dress up. I like doing the costumes because I love seeing people's reaction to it and they get really excited. And I also like making pieces that I can sell as blanks and then watch other people tell their own stories with it, and you're kind of sharing these worlds with each other. And then toys, the 1/6 stuff I do because I just really like toys. I like having the thing in my hand. I like these little pieces of art, these little sculpture pieces that can move and bend and you can touch and pose. You know, to me that's art. And engineering, I like collecting all the little bits to put on it. I like making the little outfits and weathering them. And I even started making dioramas last year for them, which is really fun. I collect anywhere from like Hot Toys to really obscure 1/6 brands put out by like individual artists. Like Black 13 Park is really cool. They make some amazing stuff. I really got into the Predator series by Hot Toys. I've also got a lot of robot toys, some Japanese vinyl, art dolls, a number of those from like artists that make like one-offs. It's amazing what they can do. The crown jewel of my collection, I would say, is probably the Samurai Predator. by Takea that he designed a few years ago. I love that thing. It's my favorite thing that I own. That and the 3A Titanfall 2 figures. They're my babies, got 2 of them, and they're awesome. Let's not wish this, but everything else burned down to my house. If I had those 3 pieces preserved, I would be happy. I've been influenced by comic books and cartoons, various media. A lot of Japanese artists have been a huge influence in my work. Even traditional art from different cultures has been a big influence, but I mean, it can come from anywhere, really. Like sometimes I'll see a color, an image will just pop in my head and I'll just want to make something with that color or color combination or shape. A lot of animals too are influences, you know, like the lizards and birds and creatures that I've had. They're great for reference and like scale textures or patterns, and yeah, influence comes from everywhere. I make work because it pays me. It's how I pay my rent. You know, you don't see a whole lot of my work around my house because I have to sell it. I can't afford to keep my work, literally. But there are periods where I want to make something that I can just lavish a lot of attention on and not have to worry about cutting it off at a certain number of hours that I've worked on it so that people can afford it. So every few months I'll do like a big project like the Crystal Demon Mask or the jacket that I made that's just for me, or Alpha over here. That's just something that I pour a lot of money and time into, just learning a new method, figuring out little problems that I can't do with, let's say, stuff that I'm going to produce 40 or 50 pieces of. And I do that because I like to see if I can do it. I want to see the thing in my head come out and be tangible, and the pleasure of just lavishing it with attention and not cutting any corners. You don't want to get to the point where you're making it perfect where you never finish it, but just really indulging yourself. It just feels really good. But at the same time, if I had the freedom to do that all the time, there is that slight motivation with being paid for what you do to be productive. 1/1 scale, like life size, as far as masks and helmets and stuff, I think that's my favorite thing to do because I really like being able to wear it. Like anything that I can put on and walk around in it, it's just really cool. And especially if you have like a moving jaw and you can like act in it, it's weird when you put a mask on, seeing how people treat you differently and how you might start to kind of act differently because you're being treated different. It's just this kind of neat interaction you can have with people. But I also like 1/6 scale a lot because the accessories are pretty easy to find. Like the G.I. Joe bodies are easy to find. It's easy to kit bash stuff with 1/6. I know the 1/12 thing is a big thing now, but that's just a little too small for me. So the 1/6 is just the right size of tininess without putting on your microscope and trying to sculpt that. My resin figures and all the weird little guys that I make, they're not really in scale. I just make them small enough so they fit in my pressure pot. The Alpha figure, it's got a special meaning to me because the story behind him is I was hired to design some bounty hunters for a show called 3 Below, and I was asked by Guillermo del Toro to do it, and it was really cool working with him. He was super nice, and it was a huge honor to do that. When the show came out, I decided to make my own figure of him just for myself and make it as cool as I possibly could, make him like kind of realistic and gritty. So I spent several months working on him, and there were points in the project where I was like, this is gonna look really stupid, like it's out of scale, his head's too big, blah, blah, blah. I sculpted the parts separately, but once I put it all together, I was like, holy shit, like he looks really cool. And I started adding the clothing and I started adding the armor. And then when I did all the final sewing and you know, sewing on his pauldrons and like all the final painting and staining, I was like, I did it. I did it. He looks awesome. And so he is my pride and joy right now. My parents have always been really supportive. They've been always very behind my art. There's been times where I think some of the stuff I was making was a little scary to them because, you know, it's monsters. But once they saw the monsters that I was making, they weren't malicious. There wasn't anything wrong with me. Like, they really like my art now. My mom's my biggest fan. You know, I told her I was working on the show. She was thrilled, and she's always looking at my Facebook and commenting or something, and they own a lot of my art. And my friends love it. Most of my friends are creative people. It's really nice to get together and talk shop with them because we all have the same issues, we all have the same hang-ups and insecurities, so it's really good to get a good community of artists around you. I'm really glad to have a partner who really gets it. Yes, Steve is creative also. He does cosplay stuff, he does special effects makeup, he's an engineer, he's got the A-brain. So there's some things that I can't figure out that he can immediately go, oh, this is your problem, here's how to solve it. Every year I am at Monsterpalooza in April. I think this year they're moving it to May. I do sell my work, And people can find my work on my online store at missmonster.shopify.com. You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and my main portfolio website is missmonster.com. I do have a Patreon. It's patreon.com/missmonster, and on there I have a number of tutorials, step-by-step things. I've got sneak peeks. If you join as low as $1, you can get access to products that I might not put up publicly. There's also a tier where you can ask me questions, I'll critique your work. A lot of paint tutorials, a lot of sculpting tutorials, molding and casting, there's a lot of stuff. My advice for aspiring artists would be, don't stop doing what you're doing, even if it's not your full-time job. Just keep doing it, because that little thing can keep you sane sometimes. That's how you express yourself, that's you. Practice, pay attention, be inspired. Don't push yourself to a breaking point either, rest. Find people who are like you, find your tribe, because they are so important. If I didn't have some of my buddies, like my convention buddies, some of my best friends, people that I've worked with, to say, oh man, you know, I had this issue, and they're like, oh, I had the same thing, I solved it that way, and you're like, oh, I'm not just dumb, it's just a thing, or I'm not feeling this way right now, oh, I feel the same way sometimes. Just comparing notes and not feeling like you're doing something wrong or you're bad because you made a mistake, or it's so important. I guess another piece of advice I would say is just be nice. Be nice to your fans. Just be kind to people online. I don't know where I'm going with that. Don't be a dick.
Hey guys, my name's Serge. I work here at Kelly's Toy Stop. This store usually sells anything vintage, so stuff from like as far as 1940s maybe earlier if we have it, to some modern stuff. So a little bit of everything throughout the decades. What I do here mostly is, you know, open the store, clean up here and there, rearrange some shelves. I will buy products if they happen to walk into the shop. Just tend to do the you know, the normal business dealings, you know. I've collected or collect just tons of stuff throughout the years. So first and foremost, I'm like a big video game guy. Second to that, it's, you know, toys like everyone else. I'm a Ninja Turtle fan. It's like the one thing that I grew up with, that's just always been like my favorite, you know, to this day. My number 2 would be Transformers, G1 mostly. Used to do a little bit of here and there just because they look cool, but honestly, there's too many of them. They're getting harder to transform. So I'll keep it simple, G1. Star Wars is another big thing for me. I don't get too crazy, you know, can't afford none of those last 17 ones, but you know, I have my fair share, and I've actually gotten lucky finding a few figs. Modern stuff, I mostly do just like anime stuff. I don't collect any of those little girly statues though, it's mostly Dragon Ball, so. I've probably known Kelly maybe about 5-6 years almost now. Literally after I met her, you know, I used to just lurk at her store once in a while, and you know, one day the opportunity came up. She needed someone in a jiffy to work for her. I wasn't working at the time, and you know, but I've had like a lot of retail experience, so you know, we got to talking, and she offered me a job. And 5 years later, I'm still here. I had a lot of stuff, and I've been just whittling it down, you know, just throughout the years. Good finds I happened to get, you know, but I had to like get rid of like the Power Rangers. I love robots just in general, so like Power Ranger stuff was, you know, was big when I was a kid. So I'm getting rid of that, you know, old Thundercats and stuff like that. A lot of 80s stuff. I remember the 80s stuff, but I don't remember playing with so much of it, just because I wasn't the luckiest kid in the neighborhood. You know, I was lucky to get a turtle every 3 months, if I was lucky. It wasn't like my neighbor who got one every week. It's definitely the place to go play with, right? We all had that neighbor. I don't really strive to look for the hard pieces, you know, if any of you guys collect turtles, right? You know, we're talking undercover turtles or Shogun ones, right? I couldn't afford those, to be honest. And they're neat, but like I said, I just want to keep it nice and simple. But the biggest thing in my collection, honestly, is just getting organized. I'm sure we all have that problem, right? My best piece in my collection probably would be my Star Wars Man. I know it's not like a crazy figure, and when you go to the thrift store, find a bag with 6 of them and only pay $7, that's gotta be the story and a nice little piece.
So I guess back in 2012, I was obsessed with taking pictures of toys and putting them on Instagram, and I found a lot of toy nerds on there that I connected with. Inspired me, I wanted to buy a camera. I started doing more legit toy photography. I just started doing stop motion. I've never done anything. I just started making GIFs and loops, and it's just evolved from there, and now I'm just addicted. Even if I want to go back and try to do toy photography, it never works because I just always start animating, and then 4 hours later I'm like, okay, maybe I should stop. My name is Scott Holmes. I'm a toy collector person, stop motion animator, just loser. I collect anything I like, so most of my stuff is probably NECA, Mezco, and McFarlane, because McFarlane had the Movie Maniacs line, which was awesome, and then Mezco had the Cinema of Fear line. I have a few sideshow figures. I collect movies. It's probably like 90% like horror related. Any place I have room on shelves, there's a toy there, so it's all about room. Collectors need room. My favorite piece. My good guy doll. Look at this guy. Fully posable. Just, look at those overalls. Corduroy. Good shoes. Yeah, this is a Trick or Treat Studios 1/1 scale good guy doll from Child's Play 2. And I've probably wanted this thing my entire life since I was a kid, so I finally have my friend till the end. I typically get all my toys from NECA Lady at Frankenson. She's best in collectibles on Instagram. She's the coolest. I've been going there for years. She's good to me. Gets all my figures, and yeah, definitely check her out if you're at Frankenson. My Back to the Future Hot Toys, the Doc, the Marty, and the DeLorean, the 1/6 scale DeLorean. That was like the first hot toy I ever bought, and still my favorite. Lights up, flux capacitor, fluxing, and it's a good piece. My buddy Francis and I shot a music video for one of my favorite bands, Newfound Glory. Got to use the DeLorean, got to use Doc and Marty, and did a whole stop motion music video for them for The Power of Love, so it was pretty cool. Other than that, it just sits on my shelf, collects dust. It takes me anywhere from 30 minutes to a week to do a stop motion animation, depending on what I'm doing. If I think it's something very simple that I could knock out, I'll start, and then 1,000 pictures later and hours later, I'm just like, oh my gosh, and it's grown into something that I have to spend more time on. But I usually just storyboard everything, I get everything ready, and yeah, it could, with editing and shooting, it could take as long as it takes. The challenges of stop motion, it's all a challenge. It's the dumbest way to make a movie. You shoot one frame at a time. It's horrible. But it's fun. If you have the patience, it's very fun, and you get to be like Dr. Frankenstein and bring something dead to life. It's cool, man. When you see it done, it's cool. Even though you spent 10 hours and you have a couple seconds of footage. I guess my favorite video I've done might be with the seed of Chucky. It involves some artificial insemination and some birth giving. It's bloody and it's funny, and I got a lot of people mad, which is always good. It's age restricted on YouTube, so you can't even watch it if you're not like 18. But it's not that bad. So if you've seen the movie, it's funny. My main inspiration is movies. I watch movies every single day. I have a small group of best friends. We have movie nights. We don't really go out. We would much rather watch a Hitchcock movie and stay in and just be sucked into the world of just movies, and it's awesome. I was introduced to horror movies probably way too young. I can't even remember. I was raised watching Halloween, Child's Play, Puppet Master, Monster Squad, House, and it's shaped me as a human. I'm so grateful that my dad showed me those movies as a kid. I'm grateful for all the nightmares I had as a kid, but probably too young. But check me out, you know? My all-time favorite is Halloween. I mean, I like everything. I like the satanic movies, obviously like killer toy movies, and just horror comedies. Evil Dead 2, Monsters. It's not much I don't like. I mean, the coolest thing about horror movies is like, I mean, one, it's a movie, but two, you get to experience fear, like on another level, like stuff you wouldn't usually experience in your life unless you're really unfortunate. But it's just, I don't know, being scared is fun. People like it. And yeah, just that fantasy dark world of just what human beings could create and put on paper and then put on screen. That's like, it's scary. But they're all just fun movies. They're fun to make, they're fun to watch. This is Funny Games. This is one of my favorite movies ever made, Michael Haneke. If I could have any action figure, it would be from this movie. They're two like serial killers dressed in all white, kind of nice polo shirt, short shorts with a golf club, and it's a very twisted movie, but really thought-provoking and awesome. And yeah, I want some action figures from Funny Games, please. My next project, I guess, I'm working on a music video for a buddy of mine, and I'm making some claymation zombie puppets. So be on the lookout for that. That's gonna be fun. And yeah, my buddy Francis directs movies that I work on, and they're very fun, and they're coming out soon. So look out for High Desert Hell and the Gemini Project, directed by Francis Galuppi. I guess my ultimate goal in collecting would just be that I keep collecting, and hopefully I don't get married and divorced and half of my collection be gone, because that would suck. I'd have to start all over. I don't really have a goal, I just like it. Some guy at the bar one time came up to me, asked me, what do you do? And I said, I collect action figures. And he says, for a living? And I said, no, I make a living so I can collect action figures. And that's just what, yeah, I love it. So, yeah. The guy looked at me weird and walked away.
Bueno, lo que más me gusta de los juguetes es que cada juguete tiene una historia. La historia de cómo lo hicieron, a quién perteneció. Un juguete da alegría a las personas también. Soy Israel Muñoz, soy de Puebla, México, y me gusta colectar juguetes. Toda mi familia ha colectado muchas cosas. Mi madre colectaba oro, de ahí empezó el que yo empezara a colectar también. Una de mis caricaturas favoritas es Mazinger Z. Es una caricatura con la que crecí. Es por eso que me metí a colectar esto, porque siempre he estado buscando figuras de Mazinger Z. ¿Cuánto de tiempo he estado colectando? Podría decirse que casi toda mi vida, porque a pesar de que no tomara el coleccionismo como algo serio, yo creo que desde más antes ya estaba colectando otras cosas. La primera pieza que sí me quedé un poco loco fue Mazinger Z en caja, porque esa figura de chico yo nunca lo tuve en México, y en México son juguetes que fueron muy caros. Entonces el yo poderlo encontrar en su caja fue algo muy significativo para mí. Mi familia fue pobre, realmente yo no tuve He-Mans, no tuve Star Wars, no tuve Street Sharks porque eran muy caros. Pero con lo que sí jugaba era con mis manos, porque a veces yo pensaba que mis manos eran juguetes. Mi madre limpiaba casas y una vez trajo Masters of the Universe, trajo Street Sharks, y cuando yo los vi, me emocioné. Como cualquier persona tenía un trabajo regular, y de repente conocí a mi novia. Mi novia venía en la calle y no vendía solamente juguetes, vendía como chacharitas. Ella sabía un poco más de los juguetes que yo, y ella me empezó a enseñar el valor que tenían los juguetes. Decidí que tal vez sería un buen negocio. De ahí empezó todo. Decidí que con el dinero que ganaba podría yo invertirlo en juguetes, empezar a vender en el Swami. No es algo que puedo decir que fue fácil. Nos ha ido bien en los flea markets, es por eso que decidimos abrir la tienda. Estamos decidiendo abrir la tienda con la esperanza de que la gente venga, mire los juguetes que tuvieron de su infancia y los compren. Catalogamos juguetes desde los 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, y sinceramente tratamos de no poner mucho de 90s. Cuando nosotros empezamos a vender estos juguetes, uno de los juguetes que pensé que no tenía ningún valor fueron Star Wars. Cuando yo empecé a agarrar juguetes de Star Wars, dije, a ver si se venden, pero yo creo que es uno de los juguetes que, en mi opinión, se vende muy bien. También nosotros vendemos playeras vintage, porque yo creo que es una combinación buena el vender juguetes vintage y ropa vintage. Prácticamente trato de enfocarme en lo que es vintage. Cuando la gente me trae cosas a vender, trato de que todo lo que voy a agarrar de lo que me traen sea vintage. No estoy buscando específicamente por nada, simplemente con que el juguete esté en buenas condiciones o que esté completo. Y otra de las cosas que es muy importante, que la gente cuando me lo vende, que me lo dé a un buen precio, porque de ese modo yo también puedo hacer un poco de dinero. Y si hago un trade, que el trade sea el mismo valor, y para que también le convenga a la persona que me está haciendo el cambio, y que me convenga a mí también que estoy haciendo el cambio.
Soy Israel.
Soy Stephanie.
Y nosotros somos
INS Vintage and Collectibles.
Come check us out.
Los esperamos aquí.
Just LA Toy Group. We don't discriminate. We don't judge. You can come shoot whatever you want. Hi, my name's Josue Romo, handle at Toy Enthusiast, And I guess I don't really consider myself a collector. I just buy whatever I think would look cool on camera. And I've been pretty much doing that for like maybe 4, 5, 6 years. So I've acquired a lot of figures over the time. Cute little message.
No cute little message.
So today we decided to bring out LA Toy Group. The group pretty much became alive, just me sending out a few messages like, do you want to shoot? I noticed you're in LA. And then those people spread out the word. We had our first meet here a few years ago. And it's just a collection of different photographers. Like we got people who shoot horror, people who shoot anime figures. Just a collection of everything you see on your timeline. We got at least one person that shoots something like that.
My name is Derek Allen, Articulated Photography on Instagram. The Toy Group, they got me involved like 2 years ago. They got me into the trouble. Started inviting me to their meets. Started off with Nightwing and Jesse here, Hackham Figures. And the group just grew and grew. Been honored to be a part of it. It's really cool. Gets me out of the house, lets me show off my toys and get some cool shots.
My name is Bore King. My username is Boreal Cookies. I got interested at the end of high school. I didn't have any money at the time, so I just like bookmarked some figures that were interesting. It wasn't until like college, got some financial aid, I decided to like, hey, I could buy a few figures here and there. Mostly it started up with the anime figurines. I started shooting around freshman year of college. I had like a digital camera. I got an iPhone and I've been shooting with the 5S since 2013. I got my first DSLR in 2016.
Dude, he knows him. He knows him.
My name is Jacob Gaitan, and what I'm doing here is I like spending time with my dad's friends and with my dad. I have more family time with him, and I'm just shooting pictures with other people's stuff. I brought my own stuff, but they can use it if they want. Yeah, that's what I'm kind of doing here, just spending time here with my dad's friends and taking pictures.
We've pretty much established like a solid little group of regulars, but the group is always open to everyone, no matter if you shoot like DSLR, cell phone, whatever you're shooting on. Usually we try and post like an advertisement for the meet, so everyone's always welcome. We don't discriminate, we don't judge. You can come shoot whatever you want, Pops, Figma, Mesco, whatever. Just come and hang out, see what we're doing, always open.
Mad racer, dude.
Yeah.
Angry commuter.
My name is Oscar. I go by 16 Horror. What I collect will be nothing but horror figures. I collect other stuff besides horror. Superheroes that I like: Superman, Batman, Joker. Other than that, most of it has been horror. How did I get into this? Because as a child, I remember Halloween was my favorite holiday. I remember me waiting for Halloween to come up, so the horror movies will come up on TV. I enjoyed watching Texas Chainsaw, Halloween, Friday the 13th, all the classics. It all started off with 7-inch figures and started getting rid of them and ended up collecting more 6-scale. I wanted a Michael Myers figure, got on YouTube, ended up seeing Once Customs. From there, it went on, started seeing other artists' work and dedicated myself mostly on collecting custom work. And to me, I enjoy it. I enjoy the art of it, what goes behind making a figure. It's not a mass-produced figure. It's unique. It's basically art. What I look for is quality work. There's many artists out there that I like, but unfortunately, it's very limited. I guess that's the thrill of it, looking for it and waiting. While a mass-produced figure is easy. Get on eBay, look it up, and find it and you buy it. I guess I get a thrill of the hunt. To me, my favorite figure will be my Michael Myers 1978 version. I have other figures that I like too, like the Hobo Michael Myers, and I have the Sam Trick or Treat. I have other pieces here that I do like a lot, like David from the Lost Boys, favorite vampire movie. You know, just like any collector, you get that rush when you open up your package or waiting for it, looking on your phone, has it arrived yet? As soon as you get home, I sit down, listen to music, have a beer while I open up my figure and basically, you know, just display it after and enjoy it. To me, it relaxes me. I admire this, the art. My wife is supportive about it. She does like some of the figures. My kids enjoy it, they respect it. How I got into Instagram was because of the hobby. I wanted to make sure that I didn't miss out on runs. That's the only way I'm in social media. I don't really go there just to go post stuff about what am I doing or pictures of me or whatnot. It's basically just to follow the hobby and see what artists are making out there. I go to events like Monsterpalooza, Midsummer Scream, Scare LA. I also like to go out, you know, to socialize with other collectors at Frankenstein. I go to certain booths out there to interact with some of my friends and speak about the hobby. You know, what's coming up, what stuff you could do to improve your figures or whatnot. One of the figures that I've been waiting for somebody to make will be a 2017 Pennywise. I've been waiting for that. As far as my collection, I'm somewhat happy with it. Yes, I do want other figures. I'll keep an eye out for them. What I enjoy about this hobby will be the hunt, looking for the figure, you know, waiting to piece something together and seeing the results and enjoying it after that.
My name is Jack Grimmett. I'm also an assistant director on film sets, made about 50 movies, got the whole IMDb thing going on, but I've never been more challenged than in front of an 11th grade classroom teaching them English. To de-stress from that, I indulge full on into pop culture and action figure collecting. And I have this inborn love for nostalgia. Toys have this timeless sensibility of innocence to them, and I really appreciate that. As you grow older, we tend to trade magic for fact, and you can't really go back on that trade. Toys hold on to that playfulness, and it's something that you can really embrace even as you age. There's a lot to toys that can keep you young. I'm definitely a mixed media artist of sorts. Started really young drawing, Ninja Turtles and Thundercats, moved on up to graffiti when I was about 12 or 13 years old. Born and raised in New York, so that was a huge culture, just the whole graffiti world. I think 10th or 11th grade, got arrested for graffiti, so had to come up with a new medium for a creative output. So I went into filmmaking, and that's where I became an assistant director. Still see my name getting up on the screen, that's pretty cool. Currently, I've been diving into some resin toy making, spray painting on canvas, do a lot of Dia de los Muertos altars, kind of just wherever my mind wanders, I follow. I was a surprise for my parents. that happened 10 years after my older brothers. My brothers, they were into the old Star Wars and then Masters of the Universe and then Big Hair and Metallica. So I got all the hand-me-downs. I remember playing with, you know, the little Ewoks and the little R2-D2s, but Star Wars didn't really become my world. I immediately fell in love with Masters of the Universe. Everything was just so random, and you know, this Clawful's got a claw, then Grizzlor's got all the fur on his head. I became enamored with the different possibilities of characters there. Masters of the Universe started to fade out. I jumped on board of Thundercats, which I was fully engaged in. That the theme song would come on the TV, and I would just jump up and down on the couch like a maniac. I'd take out my Thundercats Sword of Omens, run around the house with it. It was awesome. It's 1988 hit, and we had Ninja Turtles, and we still have Ninja Turtles. And I have been full-blown fan-a-maniac of Ninja Turtles since they came out. I collect Ninja Turtles first and foremost. Collection goes all the way back to the 80s. Every group of kids since then has had their own version of the Ninja Turtles. Some of them sucked and some of them are amazing. Thundercats are the other ones. I have almost a full collection of Thundercats, missing out on Bengali and Pumira. Outside of that, I'm kind of compulsive. I collect comic books and records and all sorts of other fun things. I love, more than anything, going yard sailing and stumbling across a treasure. Even if it's the most basic figure that I'm finding again for the 100th time, I buy it if it's in the wild, because it's like, whoa, it exists still. Buying things on the internet, I feel like there's a lot of price gouging. Not everything that's old is worth money, yet I'm still willing to pay for it because I want it. I mean, I've got like 10,000 things in my collection. My collection doesn't even solely exist in this state. There are things in New York and South Carolina. My family's spread out all across the country, and I kind of leave little bits of my collection everywhere that I go. I have pieces in my collection that are grails to people. You know, I have a beat up Thundercats lair. I have some Boglins, which seem to be hot items. The 2012 Ninja Turtle Muckman, I have 3 of those. That excites me. They were rare to get. I have one Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle Troll doll. I was interviewing to go to college at CW Post on Long Island. My counselor had the last name Laird. And so I chuckled. I was like, oh, cool, you know, you're related to the Ninja Turtles guy. And he goes, yeah, that's my brother. Mr. Laird pulled out of his desk this in the package, which the package is disintegrated now, but Raphael Troll doll. And I was like, dude, no way, you're my counselor? He gave it to me. And so I like freaked out. Years later, I was at New York Comic Con. Peter Laird was there. I told him that story, and sure enough, it was his brother. Yes, I met Peter Laird, but I was more excited to get this obscure troll from his brother on a random encounter. I'm trying to hunt out, you know, the rare Thundercats. It'd be nice to get Driller one day, probably never gonna happen. I've never, even when I was a little kid, owned Jaga, so I would like to own Jaga with a cape. That would be cool. Filling in the holes in my collection is like putting on a number onto the amount of tattoos that I have. Like there's no counting anymore. You're just like, oh yeah, there's toys and I need more. I was at San Diego Comic-Con, and I was in the Marriott bar sitting with my friend John, and it was late. It was like 2 in the morning, and this round of applause just erupts, and I'm like, well, what the hell is that? And John's like, I don't know, it's probably Stan Lee or something. So I ran. I just ran to the noise, and I get to this hallway, and at the end of the hallway, about to get in an elevator, it's friggin' Stan Lee. And it's Stan Lee and these 2 giant goons. Rest in peace, Stan Lee was pretty lit for an older gentleman. And I ran up to him and I was like, Stan, I'm not crazy. I mean, like, I'm a little crazy, but I'm not like gonna hurt you crazy. Can I just take a picture before you go up to your room and go to bed for the night? Like, I don't care like I'll jump in the elevator, you know, we could take a picture and your goons could throw me out on a random floor. I don't care. Stan was just like, all right, son, hop on in. And he took me in the elevator and he took a picture with me and I was making the stupidest face in the world. This is a picture that I've made copies of to hang in my classroom, and it makes me glow thinking about more than anything. And I have the Marvel Zombies tattooed on me. Stan saw them and he was like, what do you have here? He's like, oh my goodness, that's Excelsior! And I'm like, all right, I'm dying happy. The following day after meeting him, we're walking around the floor at Comic-Con. There's some weird anime book signing that's a manga that Stan Lee put out. Got my ticket and I ran and I bought the first old X-Men comic that I could find. And it's the first appearance of the Mimic. I waited online, it's my turn. You're not supposed to get anything but the manga signed, but I was like, dude, whatever. So he signed the manga, and then I just slip him the comic book. And he picks it up and he lights up, because I think this is one that he actually wrote. And he's like, I remember this. It's the first appearance of the Mimic. He's not just one X-Man, he's all of them. And I'm like, oh my God, this is so awesome, dude. So he signed it for me. Keep in mind that when I met him the night before, it was like 2 in the morning and Stan was drinking all night. So I'm like, Stan, you know, I'm surprised to see you made it here this morning. You were up late last night. And he's like, kid, I've been at this a lot longer than you have. And I was just like, I love Stan Lee more than anything. What does the rest of the world think of my collecting? For starters, my parents spoiled the crap out of me. Pretty much led me to like every genre of action figures growing up. My older brothers seem like they kind of caught the bug in their own areas. The biggest supporter of it all is my wife. Alicia came in and she's a California girl. Collections weren't these massive, sprawling entities to her. She seemed to have, you know, a few things that she liked. Our space expanded and our lives grew together. And so she embraced it. She dove head on into a vintage collection. I mean, she's got Tamagotchis in the box. She's got some Rainbow Bright things, ponies, popples. I mean, she went all in the collecting world. And that absolutely spiraled my collection out of control, because Christmas, birthdays, we're just perpetuating the system nonstop. For me personally, talking about my collecting without mentioning mental health issues would be a real travesty. It's synonymous for me. Not to go too deep on your channel, but I'm a manic depressant. So I go through phases where I'm way up and happy, but then I come crashing down. So sometimes to get through those phases, adding to the collection gives you a small burst of like, all right, I'm feeling good right now. I like to use those little things that I add as artistic inspiration. I want to turn my collecting into more art. I want to be able to create more that other people can engage in and share. So whether I'm painting on canvas or I'm resin casting my own figures, I want to use my collection as inspiration to further share with other people. And I want people to understand that, yeah, we all have a lot of issues going on and all of our brains are a little bit broken. But if we find resources and tools to really build upon that, we're gonna be all right.
Okay, what do I love about my bubblegum room? Well, I'm here all day because I grew them from Holmes. I like to have fun things to look at, and I used to just have a TV, and I thought I want to see all the things I love, maybe some pictures, and then it kind of just got out of control. And I started bringing back other things, toys from my childhood and candy and fun stuff. My name is Alicia Grimmett, and I'm a dog groomer, and I also collect anything Kawaii. Originally, I was working at a grooming shop, so we each had our desk and just a small, like, cubicle size area to work in. So we all, personalized it. Most people put up pictures of their kids and a couple, crayon drawings and stuff. And mine was always super pink and pastel, and I try and fit in some ponies and just a couple little things. And now that I'm at home and I have this huge room, I just ended up filling it up, and I realized I want to be surrounded in happiness and all the pastel toys. So anything that's super cute, pink, purple, a lot of toys that are from gachapons and Pokemon, anime, and I don't really add anything that's darker. Like, I have other interests, like I really like Inuyasha and some vampire stuff and monster, but I like to see everything uniform, so I'll put other toys in another room, but I like to keep this room super pink and bright, and it tends to be a lot of anime and, kawaii plushies and stuff like that. Going to Japan, I noticed a lot of people of all ages. We saw some 50-year-old people collecting cute little pink plushies, and it was acceptable. Over here in California, I have a lot of people that are confused. They come in here, some of my customers for dog grooming will come in and just look around confused, like, do you have something wrong with you? Or, why do you have all these? Do you have kids or something? And I don't have kids, but they don't really get it. But I feel like in Tokyo, they really understand. So I felt a little bit more inspired to just say, I don't care what people think. I'm going to put all of my toys out. I'm not going to keep a small collection hidden. I'm just going to make the area that I work in and spend 24 hours a day the way that I want to see it. And Tokyo helped inspire me to, number one, get more toys, and two, feel comfortable that it doesn't matter what age you are. I don't look at my collection and think it's huge. I think it's a small collection. When it comes to the plushies, I probably have maybe 50, 60. But I do have a lot of gachapons, so they're super tiny, and my desk probably has maybe 50. I don't feel like it's huge. I need a lot more. I had all the Poochie, My Little Pony, Rainbow Bright, Popples, a bunch of Nickelodeon stuff. Some of those crazy, like Taco Bell collect, you gotta get all of them, TY Beanie Babies. I was super, super into collecting all of those as a child. And so I had to pressure my mom to go take me to Taco Bell to get that dog on Christmas, or take me to McDonald's, they have Furbies, and I would get the full collections. And for a long time, she let me keep all of them, but I had rooms just like from the floor to the ceiling of all my toys. And eventually, she kept them for me for a while, but then they just disappeared. She sold them without telling me. And I mean, I don't blame her. That's a lot of storage space. Now I'm kind of just trying to get them back and start over. And I'm happy with that because it's fun to go hunt them down again. And you forget what you did have. And once you find it, it just brings joy to you all over again. And now along the way, I'm finding things that I didn't even know about, and I'm adding that to my collection as well. I'm super attached to the pieces that she did keep or I did keep in my apartment for the years. So things that were originally mine as a child always mean the most to me because they're so rare. She came over and surprised me with my Pog collection that she kept, and I was just about to go online and buy a bunch of Pogs. I was so happy because I did not know she even kept it. I have my B1 that I had my whole life, and he's probably the most important to me. One of my oldest things is my Poochie collection. I don't have many things because it's super hard to find the Poochie stuff, but my sister was an 80s baby, so she had Poochie on all the time, and I just loved it, and I love dogs. I make resin jewelry, kawaii themes, the same themes that I collect. Anything that I can find, I just convert them into jewelry with resin. And I have a lot of stickers that I collect, but there's not much I can do besides sticker bombing things. So I like to wear them around my neck and keychains. And in Tokyo, it's a big thing to have ITA bags that you put your pin collection on your purse. So I make badges out of my stickers or resin charms, whatever I'm making. So I kind of overload my bags and jackets or anything I can. So I have probably hundreds of keychains that I've made, and I also decorate the room, so I'll hang them up. But it's just a way that I can display my stickers and have it fit the theme of my room. So my family doesn't really understand what I'm doing. I don't know if they think I'm sick or I missed out on something on my childhood. They don't really understand. I pretty much get vacant looks, and maybe my mom will come over and she's just like, that's really cute. Or she'll see My Little Pony something or other and she'll buy it for me and say, I thought you might like this. But I know that a lot of my family, they're just kind of confused about it. They don't really know why, or if it's a style or something. They kind of just, for the most part, ignore it. But I mean, on the other hand, my husband, he has his collection and he completely understands it. And we kind of just make a game out of it and buy things for each other's collection, and we don't care. We'll let it take over the whole house. So my family will see that, you know, I'm not the only one, he's doing it too, and so they kind of just look at us like, okay, maybe they have Peter Pan syndrome and they just don't grow up and they just want toys all the time. So I don't get any negativity from them, but they definitely just kind of go, oh, okay, they don't have kids, but they have a house full of toys. My ultimate goal with my collection would be to jam as many toys as possible into my house and anywhere that I'm working or spending time in. I hope I don't become a hoarder, but I want to fit as much as possible wherever we live. I want everything to be the same color scheme. I want everything to look happy and pink, and basically divide the house into two sections, one for my husband to have all of his stuff and one for mine.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is I've learned about it or I know a little bit about it. So I'm hunting, you know, it's always like a hunt for it. And so then when I come across it, or if I'm on a mission to go get it, all this toys comes from record collecting. For years I've been buying records, even when I was a young kid. I remember when I moved to Baltimore and all I moved with was 2 boxes of records and 2 bags of clothes, and that was in, you know, for college days. My name is Isaac Ramos. I'm a project manager at Walt Disney Company. I work on retail technology there for the Disney stores. As a child, I was a He-Man fan. I remember the He-Man, all the different random extra figures, the Orko or the random side characters I always liked, or the monsters. I'm not collecting that crazy as I used to when I was younger, but these days getting some various Legos that are cool. I still collect soft vinyl toys. Those are my favorites. And I recently got a couple of things from Sun Guts is the brand I like, and Awesome Toy out of China. Those guys are making some very interesting toys. But soft vinyls, wind-ups, I always still try to get wind-ups because they're kind of low cost and fun things to get for their action. I collect the certain type of toys. I collect a lot of times for display. Do they look good on display? Soft vinyl toys I collect because they're durable and they can you can drop them. They don't break. They're not very fragile. A lot of toys I get, I like that they have certain limitations. So then the character design has to be limited in some way. Like a wind-up, you can't just make the exact toy and have it like a articulated action figure. It's got to be dumbed down a little bit. So I always like toys that look a little dumb, a little goofy, big eyes, a little out of proportion. I definitely found that certain things I collect because of the materials will end up being that way. I like collecting a lot of advertising toys these days and characters that are mass market characters used for selling something, but then they have to be formed in some way for like some type of advertising or promotion or anything like that. So I always like that kind of cheap throwaway promotional factor because people saved it because they have a connection to that character. Even the premiums that you get in a cereal box, I'm always amazed that people have cared for them and kept them around for 20 years or who knows. They always have the same magic to me as pulling out of a box, of a cereal box or getting it that first time. It still has that fun. Online, of course, is one place I used to get a lot of things, but these days, a lot of it is like toy shows, conventions, flea markets, of course. I'm not trying to collect these days to such I gotta have this or I'm on the hunt every day. And so it's more for like go to flea markets, see what people have. I definitely have a good eye for sorting through a big amount of stuff. Like if I go to a place and there's a lot of junk, I can definitely find what I'm looking for because I've seen a lot of it over the years, and so I don't get distracted by all the noise. For new toys, I mean, you see them on Instagram, you see them online, and there's still that I get that drool factor still when I scroll and I see that new toy or new vinyl. So there's still a lot of amazing stuff coming out of Asia to find and collect.
So about how many pieces do you have in your collection?
I don't, hundreds, I guess. I never really count that kind of thing. It could be thousands, I don't know. It's really throughout the house, really, it's a very visual house. We've moved this kind of toys and stuff to several different places. We've been here about 5 years, and I found that like cases are, of course, like where I can pack the most into and organize it the best, and then they keep away from the dust a little better. So cases, I try to get everything to a case these days. In the living room here, I have some in my bedroom now, I have some in my desk. I have some at my office desk at work too, I'm sure. Try to keep some type of theme in some general way in each case, depending on what I'm collecting or what I can put together. But yeah, usually all over the house, I guess. And then the kids have just figured out that that's just, they collect things, the whole house, people like to, put things around and fill up the space, I guess. Price-wise, I've definitely sold off a lot of toys that were, heavily valuable toys over the years, and I've been collecting, well over, 10, 15 years. And so at different times, I've had to, shrink the collection down, and so anything that's a grail has been, that kind of financial grail has been, probably sold off. I have other kind of grails. I mean, I have all these bounty hunter toys that are Japanese company bounty hunters, some of my all-time favorites, and so a lot of those toys have been taking me a long time to be able to put together a good solid collection of all the different things that they've released, and so some of those I definitely consider my grails and my favorites. One of my favorite grails is like this glow-in-the-dark rat fink that I have, or one of the characters I love to collect, Anpanman. I have his very first toy that came out. That was really cool to find the very first Anpanman toy release. And when I bought it, some guy was like, "Oh, hey, that's the first one. If you I don't know why you're buying it, basically, but that is the first Anpanman toy." So it's fun to get those original Roots ones. Original Captain Crunch, Piggy Bank. Those ones are took me forever to find. And there's certain toys that I've hunted for years that if I could get it, then I know I would definitely consider it a grail, but I haven't found them yet. Sentimental, I definitely have one toy I remember that I got. You had to get it on a day that it was raining in Tokyo, and that was definitely I really wanted to always get one of these toys that were only available for sale on a rainy day. And so one day I wake up when I'm in Tokyo for a trip, I'm trying to buy toys, it's raining, and I was so excited that I had to run down to that store to be able to see what they were, did they put something out, and sure enough they did have a toy out that day for this rainy day. It's clear blue, and very exciting to actually get it in the store on the rainy day. That was definitely has that hunt sentimentality. The toys come from having a lot of records and having storage for records and then having room on top of that to put stuff. So I started buying toys to put on top of these record cases. At that point I had thousands of records, and so I had found everything I had looked for records. And so it started becoming like a hunt too for toys, and like, ooh, let me go, I heard about this toy, I heard about this kind of thing, let me go track it down. I heard about Godzilla and there's a weird, era of these type of toys. Where can I find it? Let me go track this down. I love the hunt. Also the communication. I see it for sure, I like it, but there's gotta be something more to it. Will I keep collecting for the rest of my life? I mean, definitely. For years I've toned back my buying because, just can't put my financial focus on it. So getting little things that are like more here and there is always precious to me. I love characters, and so I always think I'll find some interest in them, whether I'm buying as toys or more in paper form in books. I love collecting books, and so having so many more people who are like me, who are putting books and putting collections together of these collections, that'll always keep me going. And me and my kids talk about a restaurant or some type of ice cream store or something like that where we can put the collection so people can see it, because I have it so dense in here. I have so many, I have so many toys crammed together that if we had a different kind of space where they could be more spotlighted or more showcased like on their own, there's definitely more room where we could expand the collection or share it off more. So I think sharing the collection is definitely where I might want to go. Figure out how to tell people about these kind of toys, or especially the advertising toys I want to get more and more interested in. So there's a whole bunch of world of that I can keep looking into, that's for sure.
Well, when I was a kid, I played video games, and I was like, man, this art is so cool. And I would always draw and stuff like that. And then later on I realized, oh, you can make art for video games. And that was super exciting. So I just kind of from that point on focused on that. It's funny, I talk to people that don't know what to do with themselves, and I've always been kind of driven towards that goal. Once I discovered it, it's that's what I want to do. I would consider myself a digital sculptor. I have been sculpting, not my whole life though, maybe junior year of college. I started learning 3D programs, and but before that it was all traditional, just drawing, messing around with things. I started off learning Maya, but wasn't always a huge fan, and I ended up self-teaching myself 3D Studio Max. And then from there I taught myself ZBrush, and ZBrush is the best. It's good for everything almost. I've been dabbling in traditional sculpting too, through some encouragement, through some friends. And Monster Clay Hard has been my favorite so far with that. Yeah, I use the Wacom Cintiq. I used to use the Wacom's tablets, but there's always that disconnect from when you're drawing and you're looking at the thing. Being able to draw and see your stroke is such a huge difference. You don't end up drawing the same stroke over and over and over to get the line you want. I love creatures. Creatures all day, every day, dragons especially. I don't know why dragons, when I was a kid I liked horses, and then horses became dragons, and it's just stuck. They're just fascinating. I love reptiles in general. I actually have a hobbyist breeding reptiles. I don't know. As far as influences, influences come from everywhere. You go on ArtStation, you see this plethora of awesome artists. It's so hard to just choose one. Inspiration comes from everywhere, from past and present. You look at people like Bigsinski, and his art's phenomenal. And then people today, like Alan Williams. There's just so much to choose from, traditionally and non-traditionally. It's a great time to be an artist. Yeah, I love collecting art from other artists, mostly original art. That's like the biggest thing. Like if it's somebody's own idea. I mean, I collect some things that are from a video game too. I love when I can see like something really creative by someone, and I'm also really partial to things like creatures. Like as far as my personal work goes, I 3D print my work and then I make molds and casts because the 3D prints tend to break down over time. So like I'll sell the casts at shows or online. Monsterpalooza is my favorite, but I also do DesignerCon. DesignerCon was actually my first show before I even moved to California. A great experience out in Pasadena. Met so many awesome artists. I don't even pay attention to the 1/6, 1/8. I've just kind of like, okay, I've got this figure at 4 inches, I've got this figure at 2.5 inches. It's pretty much how I've been doing things so far. Whatever I feel looks good. I know for my last figure I did it bigger just because I wanted it to be bigger, not really for any other good reason. The Cerberus I had at Monsterpalooza, it was actually, I was pretty happy with how that turned out. It was a lot of fun to make. My most proud of ever was the Chaos Zinch Dragon I made for Total War Warhammer. I love that thing. It was so much fun to work on and just so much me. Like, I love Warhammer Zinch and dragons. It was just the perfect task. It's funny, as far as work goes, my mom thinks I make the entire video game, and a lot of people are baffled. People think that I just hit a 3D print button and I'm done. I don't have to do anything else. There's so much more work to it than that. I've got a Facebook and an Instagram. I'm more active on Instagram. You can message me. I actually check my messages. I sell casts of my 3D prints, and I'm starting to do casts of my traditional stuff that I plan to sell as well. I have a website, www.crystalschimeras.com. It's spelled, Crystals is spelled with an E. It's my name.
What advice would you offer aspiring artists?
Stay focused, stay disciplined. One of the biggest things I see people asking when they want to be an artist is, how do you stay motivated? And really the motivation should just come from yourself. Like, that's more a discipline thing. If you keep trying, keep learning, you'll get there. Like, just be stubborn about it.
When I had just my room, I just had a lot of action figures. But then I sold some because once I was able to move into a bigger place, I wanted more stuff around my living room. I didn't want just action figures in my living room. I wanted just other odd stuff. I'm a big fan of just Halloween decorations, or just, I guess, I won't call them oddities. I was very influenced when Guillermo del Toro introduced us to the Bleak House. I was like, oh my God, imagine to live amongst all that stuff. But then I said, you know what? I can do that, you know? I see a lot of stuff that I like, and it's just, I had to buy it. It's like, I feel at home. Come home tired from work, I come into my place and I'm happy. This is home, you know? It's just, it's my stuff. No one had an input in anything besides my wife, and we just buy stuff that we like and that makes us happy. It's our own little personal museum. My name is Saul, but on Instagram I'm known as Saul Hurtado, and I'm a collector of stuff. Very unique stuff. Just whatever catches my eye, whatever I see out there that I feel it's fitting for my collection, I bring it home. Started off with figures. My collection started back in junior high. I started with comic cards, comic books, and that's when I got introduced to Spawn and Todd McFarlane, and I noticed he started releasing figures and I was hooked. So I sold a lot of stuff, tried to get some money, saved my lunch money, bought some movie maniacs. That's where it all started. I mean, I was hooked from then. I couldn't stop collecting, and I built my own shelves in my old room. I was displaying them, buying them by the series, and I would work, and if I had 30 bucks left from my check, I was excited because, hey, let's go get an action figure, you know? And I used to rent movies, and I had certain monsters that I was always obsessed with. Jason Voorhees, Freddy Krueger, and Todd McFarlane brought that to life. I still have some of the original ones that he released in September of 1999. My 18-inch Michael Myers. I still have my original 18-inch Leatherface 20 years later. I mean, NECA released some stuff, and I got NECA. I got Sideshow figures. Big on Universal Monster. I mean, I'm huge on it. What fascinates me about horror is the creativity. I mean, the monsters, the makeup, the mask, the fear. Like Chucky, for example, a killing doll. I mean, that's awesome. I mean, why wouldn't you want that? You got the Puppet Master and then the 6-shooter. I could just imagine them sitting back there and writing this stuff and just having a good time. It's like a 6-armed cowboy shooting at you. Why not? That's great. Gremlins. You have a spider gremlin. They're terrorizing your town. That's awesome. Wouldn't I like to be a part of that? My favorite horror film. You can't not talk about Halloween. Obviously, Michael Myers. The guy's possessed with pure evil. It's just great. Besides that, Return of the Living Dead. I mean, that was just one of those tapes that always stood out at the video store because of the art. And it's like, of course, my parents were like, no, we're not getting that. But then when I was able to rent on my own, oh man, I'll go back and rent that. The Creepshow series, Chief Woodenhead, Comes to Life, Revenge, love it. One of my favorite shows has always been Tales from the Crypt, just great. I mean, the Crypt Keeper, I mean, come on. He's talking to you. I mean, obviously as a kid, I really didn't do much Saturday nights, but I definitely tuned in to watch Tales from the Crypt. We were once introduced to a bar called Trader Sam's. We loved the vibe, so we were like, you know, how cool would it be to have our own tiki bar? So we did. We found a place where we can make our own tiki bar, and we did all the decorating ourselves. We collect mugs. We've been collecting mugs for as long as we can drink, I think. But then we did more than mugs. I like stuff like Indiana Jones, and you see all the stuff in the background, and it's like, oh, you want some of it. Antique chairs and old TV and antique radios. I'm like, oh man, this will look great in the bar. And it's like, if Indiana Jones had a bar, this would be it. This would be his own personal bar, because he just had a lot of cool stuff. Where do I shop? I do a lot of buying, trading. One of my main spots is Frank & Son. I visit a booth called Classic Plastics. It's a buddy of mine, he runs it. His name is Mike, great guy. You can find him on Instagram. He has all the stuff that you can ask for as a collector. Records, movies, horror tees. He's always cool to hang out with. And some of the older stuff, I go to flea markets, because you never know. I mean, there's always older guys that collect too, and they downsize, and that's how I was able to come up with some of my Universal Monsters in the sideshow, because a lot of older guys are like, you know what, I'm pass these on, and hey, if you're selling, I'm buying, man. I got to meet a lot of older guys that are retiring their collection, and I stepped in, I said, I'll take it. When I acquire a new piece, I'm happy, especially if it's something that's very limited. I'm like my American Werewolf in London in my living room. I mean, I had to have it out there. The wolf, I missed out on the bloody version, but I was able to get the one I have now, and I heard there was only 300 pieces. So of course, when I was able to save up some money and find someone that would actually sell me the werewolf, I was like a kid's first time at Disneyland. I was happy. I mean, oh my God, look at him. He's amazing, you know? When you're able to acquire a new like tiki mug like this one, for example, you get happy, you know, you're one of them. And then you check in an hour later and they're sold out and people are bummed, but you know what, I'm not. You know, I have that evil happy, like, haha, you know, I got it, you know, and there's other people asking for it, and it's just a good feeling, you know, that I was able to score one. What I would consider grails, I would say, for example, my Exorcist figure that NECA released, when she's tied up to the bed and you can push the button and the head spins, and my wife gave me, I would consider a grail with a lot of sentimental value, the Freddy versus Jason display case for Christmas. I would have never thought I would have one of these, and she found one, and I would forever keep that. I mean, that's definitely a grail with a lot of sentimental value. And my sideshow collection of Universal Monsters, sentimental value right there too. I mean, it took me a while to acquire all of them and collect them all, and if I could take them with me to the afterworld, I would. Where do I house my collection? It's just all around me. As you can see, I have what you would consider a man cave. It's more than just this. Now I have it in my living room. I even have figures in my bathroom. Everywhere I go, I have to see something. Like when I'm brushing my teeth, I have a Creature of the Black Lagoon frame, and it's just, the movie goes through my head. I'm always somewhere else besides where I'm supposed to be. When Halloween comes around, I love to decorate. I'll never stop. People say, you're never gonna grow out of it. I'm like, no, why would I? I mean, Halloween has been around before me and it will always be around after me. It's just, I just want to be part of the tradition. What's sad to me sometimes is like I go to different stores and the Halloween decorations aren't like they used to be. It's like I could watch the movie Halloween and you could see how they decorate the houses back then. And I was like, man, you don't see those decorations anymore. So instead of being bummed, I was just going to flea markets and yard sales and started buying them and collecting them, and there's nothing like them. I mean, they're called blow molds. Funny name, but that's just the key word. And every time I saw them in movies, especially old 80s horrors and stuff, like the way they decorated in the movies, it's great. I mean, you even see them in Stranger Things. I believe it was the beginning of season 2. They have a little introduction of decorations and you can see all the blow molds. I'm like, oh my God, there they are, you know, and I have most of them now. They were made to last. And I have them all out all year long. I mean, not in the front yard, but in my garage. I never put them away. They're just out there. I even have some in my living room. They're too nice to put away. My friends, they understand me because they're collectors too. My wife, I won't say she's a collector, but she understands. She knows her movies. She knows what I'm talking about. But when I come home with a piece like, oh, look, I found this 7-foot knight, you know? And she's like, 7-foot knight? Yeah, you know, like you see in the Munsters or in the Addams Family. I mean, why wouldn't you want a knight? So there I am. We'll watch Creepshow. Oh my God, look, Chief Woodenhead. How cool would it be to own your own, you know, card? Native American. I mean, why not? I come home with one and she's like, are you serious? Yeah. So, you know, can you help me get him out of the car? He's pretty heavy. But once it's inside and it's organized, then that's when it looks nice, you know? It's not just like packed away or in the way. It's where you put it to and how you decorate it. That's what really makes it look more appealing. Family and friends, what do they think about it? Well, they think it looks like a museum. I have a religious aunt, so she'll like come over and she's just like, oh, you know, what is this? You know, hey, you know, I mean, oh my God, how do you sleep at night? I'm like anybody else, you know, I mean, you're not scared that they might do this or do that? No, I mean, obviously you, but you know, like me, no, I'm fine. I sleep well, you know, and then I have my father-in-law come over. Oh, this place looks like a museum. What is all this? Like, it's just stuff that we like. But you know what? They're entertained, and cool. I'm good with that. I'm happy. It's something to talk about. There's always something to talk about in here, and sometimes they see something that they saw in a movie, and that's how we start conversations. On my wish list, there's a few items, but I'm talking about expensive items. Like I could be watching MTV Cribs and I saw this episode one time when they were doing Rob Zombie's house, and he was talking about how he owns the original polar bear from the Addams Family, and when he was standing next to it, it was so huge. It was standing and it looked like it was growling, and it's just like, why wouldn't you want that? I want one. So yeah, I would say that's on my wish list, like a replica of that. And they recently released another replica of the American Werewolf in London. I mean, the guy is 7 feet long, and it's like, why wouldn't I want that? It's crazy. Where would I put it? But I'll find somewhere to put it, you know, even if I have to get rid of a sofa or something, you know. That would be awesome to own. I will always be collecting. I mean, my goal is just to never lose the love that I have for it. Because, I mean, it's been 20 years since I've been collecting, and I love it. I mean, I graduated high school and got my first job in 1999, and now we're in 2019, and I can go right now to the store, and if I see something that I don't have and I bring it home, I'm happy. And I want to continue being happy, and I know I am, because this is just what I love. And my only issue right now is my fear of running out of space. But hey, if I have an opportunity to move to somewhere bigger and I can afford it, I'm going to do it. I'll be like, you know what? We're moving. I found more space. That's just, I guess you could say my goal is to never run out of space. At my age now, the person that influenced me, I want to say Guillermo del Toro. I'm at a certain age where I have to be more responsible. I mean, I have to act like an adult, but you can also still have a love for collectibles and horror and action figures and just stuff, you know? And Guillermo del Toro, when he introduced the exhibit At Home with Monsters, he just recharged my batteries to like continue collecting. And it doesn't just have to be in a room, you know? You could live with monsters, like meaning like I open my front door and there's a Chucky doll in my living room, and there's a 7-foot Night, and there's all these Haunted Mansion collectibles. And why have that hidden, or why have that stored away, you know? Live with it, you know? If it makes you happy and you love seeing it every day, why not? Besides my collection, I have a cat. I always wanted a black cat, and I found the perfect black cat that loves my collection. And surprisingly, she has a thing about a chair in my living room and always laying next to Chucky. If she's hanging out with us in the living room, she's always next to Chucky. Maybe she feels safe. Maybe they have a bond. Maybe they communicated or something. Who knows? But they're always together. I guess you could say they're friends to the end.
So my name is Carl. I better pronounce that in American Carl, which is Carl. Otherwise I get Kyle or Paul when I go to Jamba Juice anyway. I'm in tech management, kind of in the music industry, but I never go near artists, but I do see the odd band play. That's what I do. I'm a big fan of Sofubi, soft vinyl made in Japan. Generally boutique style operations who are making them, individual artists, making small limited editions. I occasionally license stuff, but most of the time it's their own creations, their own vision, made into something maybe influenced by something historical. There's a lot of reference points going around these days, and then when one artist finds a reference point, another artist can sometimes start riffing off that as well. So yeah, these days it was once named Neo Kaiju, so new monster toys from Japan. So why do I collect them? I remember I was desperate when Star Wars came out for a Star Wars figure. Did not have one Star Wars figure. And when finally got to a store that had them in England, the only one they had left was Princess Leia. Now, not a misogynist, but I'm a boy and kind of boys' toys, and if I was going to spend like, it was a few pounds back then, it was not going to be Princess Leia. I didn't have the money and I didn't get Princess Leia. Sorry, I really wanted like, you know, Darth Vader or Luke Skywalker or something like that. Anyway, when I was a kid, we didn't have that much money. I liked Action Man, or G.I. Joe, as Americans know him. One day in the playground, some kids had this super cool toy. It had clear flesh outside, and it had either twisted mutated organs inside or metallic machinery, Henshin Cyborg, transformation cyborgs. That was pretty far-sighted for that time, way ahead of its time. I saw these toys, they blew my mind at the time. I had to save up a lot of money for a lot of months. I lived in a small town, coastal northern England, so finding them was tricky. Found them, bought one, months later bought another. I was pretty stoked they had interchangeable parts. I always kept these toys, kept the boxes. Years later I found there were other toys that kind of looked similar, had similar reference points. Henshin Cyborg and Muton and Cyborg and Android A formed the basis of my collection. Late 90s, the internet was around searching for the origins of these toys. Found out what I was collecting was licensed in the UK, and it was actually a toy that was a G.I. Joe style toy that was licensed to a Japanese company who then relicensed, and a smaller version was made for the UK market. And I found that a lot of the people now, when I was looking for these toys, A lot of Japanese designers were influenced by these toys. That got me investigating those, and meeting a few like-minded people in the early 2000s really got me into it full time. I'd been into the Hong Kong scene like Jason Su and Michael Lau, and kind of designer toys were new, but I'd always kept these clear toys with guts. And finding these smaller mutated twisted versions which were made of soft vinyl was pretty exciting. And then there was a book published called Get On Street Bible. Like the Japanese publishers would make these things called a MOOC, which is like a catalog of all the toys you could get. And it had the most amazing toys in there. There was stuff by Pusshead, who I was familiar with from the 80s. And they had these called Cocobat Joe, which I kind of realized Pusshead also had something to do with. Cocobat Joe was made by Medicom, and Medicom seemed to be producing a lot of these toys, and some of them were related to bands like Madcaps or Markets, you know, Japanese alternative and punk bands, and Balzac, who were kind of like a Japanese version of the Misfits. All these reference points that really speak to me. I used to like alternative music a lot, punk rock, metal, skateboarding, and all this stuff's in their references. So it just drove me towards this soft vinyl scene because it's DIY. People could sculpt these toys, get molds made, and get these produced, and then hand paint them. There's a lot of artistry in them. And then there's the exclusivity of it, super limited editions. So I was getting into that like heavily around, you know, late 2004, 2005. Then I discovered Super 7. I went to Japan for the first time, and I met the owner of Secret Base. This is a Secret Base collab shirt I'm wearing. We had a lot of the same interests and stuff, even though the owner, Hidi, his English wasn't great, and my Japanese was, and still is, non-existent. I went there and met Hidi. We did some trades. I traded some of my UK licensed Muton and Cyborgs, and I got the Takara Henshin Cyborg 12-inch figures. Also toys made by Hidi, which I'd already been collecting, and started collecting Secret Base with a vengeance, and tried to get super complete. I went through that period maybe in my teen years where I didn't collect, but back then I was getting these action figures, and I'd go on holiday for cheap holidays to Florida, and I'd buy like Toy Biz figures, Bill and Ted, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Then years later I was lucky enough to like move to the US because of a job I got, and started collecting the Spawn toys. So that's where my first sets came from toy stores. Nowadays, for what I collect, mostly internet. So many sources, Japanese auction sites, but there are so many makers now, and some of the best makers, very creative makers, are based in the US. Buy from them. These days supply is always less than demand, so with lotteries, you enter an online lottery. There's sometimes a bit of adverse competition in terms of things are worth more than what you pay for them, that arbitrage value is there. So bad actors will get in there and just buy them to flip them. I think a lot of people flip their toys. It's frowned upon within the scene, but that adds to the volume of people trying to get them. We have festivals like DesignCon, which grew from being Keyology in 2004, in a one room with 10 tables in Pasadena, to now this massive operation in Anaheim at the convention center there. 5 Points, run by Clutter Magazine, another festival, get people over from Japan, a lot of new makers from China coming over. Amazing festivals in Japan, which few of us can ever get to go to, with their own rules of engagement. Those are pretty exciting. I mean, I've been to one in my entire collecting life. And then there's buying direct from the makers, you know, through connections or through relationships you've made. I think that pretty much talks about the main ways to get the toys. So when I get a new toy, I used to make jokes like it made me feel moist. I remember once I was asked by some CBS radio interviewer when I'd bought something called the Pusshead Grail bag, how I felt, and I said moist, and he immediately switched off the microphone. To be serious, I guess it's a little bit, I think I mentioned at the beginning, the borderline kind of affliction of collectors have. So of course, depends what you're looking for. Sometimes it can be almost routine because you know you're going to be able to get that. But when it's a chase involved, or you didn't expect to get that, say it's an auction and either you're surprised to find that thing or you're very surprised to get it at the price you can afford, then of course, yeah, it's a rush. I think most people experience that feeling these days. whether it's a like you get on Instagram. So yeah, it makes you feel pretty good, especially when you fill a gap in your collection. That is awesome, and sometimes you can just stare at that object for ages. But as I get older, I keep thinking, oh man, am I filling my life with like objects? There's still some that'll do it for me. It's definitely an interesting feeling that I analyze more these days. Displaying my collection is a problem. I ran out of space, and I remember moving house to have a bigger place. Not that I can just like have the funds to do that, but it made sense for various other reasons too. Basically, any flat surface becomes an area for toys now because I have so many. There's this like weird thing where people think I keep everything in tubs. I do have some stuff in tubs. Most of it's out when I got a lot of new space. I'm going for this open shelving look. I think you might be able to see it behind me, as well as cabinets. So there's a lot of dust around, but I kind of trying to get a clean look. I mean, I would aspire to minimalism, but I collect stuff, so that's like really tricky, right? So I'm trying to go for open shelving. It's everywhere. Originally, I was supposed to have one big toy room, and stuff exploded out of there into the main house. And these are super rare. I sculpted them. I made a joke of it by putting them in with the rarest, most expensive toys. A gifted toy that you really wanted, and then someone gifted it to you, that's pretty special. A toy made by someone you know, that you're on good terms with, that's pretty special. Something that you didn't expect to get and wanted for a long time, I guess that falls into the grail category. I have what I think is an interesting story about one toy. It's certainly a very cool toy. It was sent from Australia, and it disappeared when it got to the US. But then the seller got an email from someone in LA saying they were driving behind a post office van on La Cienega and a bunch of boxes fell off. And one box got stuck under their wheel in their wheel arch. This person eventually ended up just dropping it off at my doorstep, and this totally bashed box. And inside was the toy. So I got this toy weeks, maybe months later. It was fine when he got it out of the box, but I just thought it was pretty interesting that it came from Australia to be stuck on. Anyway, post office never even said anything about it, which I thought was quite funny. The tracking just ended. So that was kind of cool that I got that, and I was just looking at it today. There's certain makers I really value more than others, and I focus on, and those toys will always be valuable to me when I get them. My husband grew to love it. What I get, he gets excited when I open a box. I guess he has to like it, right? He lives amongst it. There's a toy collector friends. Obviously they like some of it. Some people come over and get a bit weird and bent out of shape about certain things I have. I guess there's the juxtaposition of like wanting the stuff yourself versus someone else has it. My non-toy collecting friends, 100%, they get pretty stoked on this stuff. I mean, not the minutiae, but just seeing it en masse. They really like seeing it. I mean, where else are they going to see it? They wonder what it is. They don't think it's too weird. That's actually quite surprising. I mean, when they see the volume, they think it's a bit crazy, and they know that I probably spend proportionally too much on this stuff out of my overall income. So yeah, they think that's a bit crazy. This is a cyclical hobby in a way, and I think sometimes it only has one cycle. Been in it long enough to see things go up and down, and you know, I don't think it's a retirement investment, but maybe this is what I spend my money on instead of saving what I should do. So it's kind of a bit crazy, but you know, I like it that much. So yeah, I like it. I mean, my wish list is to be able to carry on collecting what I collect, and there are certain things, the competition has increased as more and more people, you know, maybe they'll see something like this and get interested, or they see your Instagram and it makes them want to be interested in it. So the nature of it, because it's handmade by craftsmen basically, artists and craftsmen, means that it's never going to be mass market, mass volume. So the more people that get in, it's harder. I guess my wish list is to be able to keep on collecting, to be able to have the income to do that, the wherewithal, the friends, the connections, the good graces, and to know about it and not be in that position where you can't. I see a lot of people come in and it's the biggest thing in their life for maybe 2-3 years, and then they're out of it. I've been in this a long time, and I told a lot of people I'm still going to be in this, and I still am, and I feel like I will be. The number one thing about this hobby is the people that I've met through it. We have so many similar pathways into this hobby. When we first got together in early 2000s, one of the things that was instrumental in bringing the scene together was a message board called skullbrain.org, created by Isaac Ramos. We met a lot of people from different places, mostly across the States, but people from Europe, England, Japan. Also met local people through that, which was awesome. So we coined something called the LA Skull Crew, LASK. And then various other incarnations came up, like there was the Boston area Skull Crew, BASK. Basically anything you put ask on the end of it. And there's a little bit of very friendly rivalry there, like Todd was added to the end of certain names and stuff like that and thrown back at each other. So we met those people, and I'm still in touch with lots of the people, including those who don't collect now. Some are lifelong friendships, some are friends who've come and gone, you know, but it's all good stuff. I've certainly met a lot of people, I hang out with these people. The other thing is you meet the artists, and sometimes that's awesome, sometimes it's not the best thing. It's hard for me to separate art from the artists, but it is that ability to get connected to these people, to have that real-time dialogue with them that makes things interesting. Some people use it to their advantage. Some people just become friends, whether they get in the toys or not. It's really interesting. I think it's part of the internet age and the connectivity of social media, some of which is bad. This is generally a pretty good thing. We meet up. I know people in New York. I know people in the South. I know people in England, Japan. I know people in China. I mean, can you believe it? If you'd asked me 10 years ago, would I have someone from China coming to stay with me? I said, I don't know, probably unlikely, but now there's a whole bunch of Chinese artists. Get friendly with someone before they become a toy maker, then they become a toy maker and they end up staying with you. I guess it's a bit like the punk rock scene, you know, where people go and stay at each other's houses. I never had that ability to really do that. That's probably the number one cool thing. Apart from the endorphin rush again, that new toy or winning that auction, yeah, that's pretty hot too, but making friends and a real human connection, just not over the internet. I think any way you can get that these days, there's a ton of loneliness out there, and having that connection can't be beat. Really good stuff.
They're not knitting box anymore. We're the Underworld Collectors. I don't know. Who are we? My name is Count Stankus, and I do videos with my buddy Matt.
Matt Strange.
Strange. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Count Stankus, Matt Strange, back again for another video review. I've been doing videos on YouTube for a little over 10 years now, and prior to that, doing a thing called a blog, MySpace, talking about toys, trying to keep the historical benefit of toys at the helm of life for everybody to enjoy and to absorb it and I know pass it on for generations and generations. Matt here, met him years ago.
What are the actors' names for the principal crew? We've got the Big Lebowski, played by...
He and I were buddies online talking about action figures without even knowing each other in real life. We just had a shared passion for action figures.
Yes.
And I'm making it weird. But anyway, again, without going into the details, suffice to say that at a work event for the company that I was working for, this fellow was actually helping out at, unbeknownst to me, and he saw me and was like, dude, I know you, and we struck up a friendship, and ever since then I've been hanging out and making toy videos and blowing up
That's right.
little dollhouses in the background. I'm making that up. Anyway, you get the idea.
MySpace started a thing called a blog where you type out basically a book report, and I got really sick and tired of typing out all this stuff. And so my YouTube channel, it was a shortcut for me not to have to type a bunch of crap out and put it onto my MySpace page.
Hi, here we are with my, I guess my first video blog, whatever it is that you would like to call it.
When I first started, it was called the Toy Room of Insanity, my videos. And those were just generic videos for me. they were. Now they've kind of changed over the years. My Toy Room of Insanity videos, which is what I call this place, have become more something special to me, which I only do maybe 4 in a year. I think I average that now, because I want to have something like that I think, not that I don't think, you guys don't think, but I think is really, really special.
Of course, over the years, there were some other play sets that were created by other toy companies that were very mountainous, like the Fantasy Forest or Fantasy Fortress play set.
We did a video about mountain toys, which was, it's a weird thought I have. It turned out to be pretty awesome. But those videos are meant to be, in our opinion, or
those are like proper investigative videos.
They're very investigative and a bit epic, and I think entertaining, and I've gotten great response from it. It's a lot of fun.
They're also less impromptu. They're more scripted.
Very scripted. Actually, pretty much all scripted. They're meant to be, I guess, historic, informative, and just bringing maybe stuff that people have forgotten about from over the years of toy collecting. Like, this is something awesome. So there's that, the Tournament of Insanity. But I started doing a thing called Underworld. This was meant to be a breakaway from that, so I can just do a video. Going to different thrift stores, savers, places like that, and I think a lot of people really enjoyed that, seeing those different things. And other people do it as well. But we took it to a different level, and Matt really joined in. He already did some videos with me before that, but he joined in, and we did Underworld Collectors, and we had a whole intro created with a song. We do a lot of weird things, and that's more of us being a little more freer, non-scripted. It's really non-scripted.
There's a risk and a reward. The more scripted you expect, the more informative. With Underworld Collectors,
yeah,
you don't know what you're gonna get. We might be dipping into the sauce one night hard.
And it is true. There is a papercraft video that we did for the cockpit of the Millennium Falcon.
This pretty easy. This set sucks.
Yeah, listen up. I know you have a tequila bottle in there somewhere. Where the hell is it?
Yeah,
Put together.
we're getting
It's
it done,
horrible.
but it's a hard way.
Yeah, we're getting it done.
We're not alcoholics. We we have fun, enjoy ourselves. But we did have a video with the papercraft where we did drink a lot, and I leave it up there because it was pretty funny. In my opinion, it's funny. And don't take offense, please don't. But I think it was a lot of fun.
Action Quest Theater.
Well, this is just great. Was your plan to have us escape that monstrosity by getting us lost in the far reaches of space?
Print, will you shut up already? Hooper, check the backers again. See if you can reroute power from the positional thrusters to the comms relay. On it!
Action Quest Theater is this epic thing that wasn't meant to be epic. But what do we say it derived from?
I think the original idea was to kind of pull from Toy Fair's Twisted Migo.
Twisted Migo Theater.
Which they changed the name to Twisted Action Quest. Or
Yeah.
Twisted, whatever it's called.
It doesn't exist anymore, but yeah, some of you might remember that. But that was a cool thing, and we had done Action Quest Theater Part 1 with Star Wars figures, and it turned out to be this epic, very challenging thing for us to film. Now, we're not these super incredible guys that can film movies in our sleep, but this is quite challenging.
You're not.
But we've done Part 1, 2, and 3. It's on my YouTube channel. Check it out. And the last thing that we do on my channel is I do a live show, but it's called Collector's Dungeon. It's a live show I do with my buddies from the Collector's Dungeon crew, and we talk about toys and show off our pickups, our newest things we bought, and just laugh at each other and talk toys.
I remember being in 6th grade and thinking, specifically the thought that one day I would grow up and I would no longer collect toys and I was profoundly sad. I remember actually having this like profound thought.
I think
that like
sixth grade was the year.
One day I would get older and I would grow out of this, and that filled me with such sadness. And
the girls was a part of this, though.
well, sure, whatever. But like I got older, and it just never kind of really went away. Crazy anecdote. So the question is, how long have we been collecting toys for? I'm saying 1976 because that's when I was born here. When I was a kid, one of my first Star Wars figures that I had the 14-inch tall Kenner Darth Vader, and my parents would take away the lightsaber because they were afraid that I would choke myself or poke myself in the eye, and like Star Wars.
Or murder your parents at night.
Or that whole thing. But they literally took it away from me because it was like, kid's not old enough. He can't handle the power of the lightsaber.
Can't handle the power
I
of the
lied
Force,
to
man.
my parents. I told them as a little kid. I must have been like 5 years old, and I told them that I had lost the lightsaber so that they wouldn't ask for it back because they would let me play with it for a little while, and then they would put it back in the bookcase, and I'd have to ask for it back. And I didn't like having to surrender the lightsaber to my parents, so I lied to them. I was like 5 or 6 years old, and I lied to them. And was like, I'm sorry, I've lost the lightsaber. And they were like, this is why,
son of a mother.
This is why we can't let you have lightsaber. And you know what? At my place, I still have that original Darth Vader
with the lightsaber
and that same lightsaber.
Being a part of the 70s, I had an older brother, was able to jump on the bandwagon of the original G.I. Joes from the 70s, not the ones from the 60s, the ones from the 70s. Big Jim, also Mego. And the specific day when I became a collector. And this is straight up. Don't have a date, but I have a memory. Sitting in front of our front door, and we had the Death Star on the floor, and we're playing with our Star Wars figures, Death Star, and my parents were there, and they told us, they said, your figures, these things are gonna be collector's items one day. Take care of them and yada, 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 whatever. At that point, we had been taking our toys in and out of the house. From that day on, we never took them outside again. Never. They stayed in the house, stayed pristine, didn't lose any weapons. Yeah,
was
right.
it just them telling you that, or was it something that clicked?
No,
inside?
that was it. Clicked for me.
But why though?
OCD.
Was it like they just told you it's gonna be worth something, or
how did collector's item? That was it. Ching.
Okay.
And knowing Star Wars, this is Star Wars. I mean, again, I'm not saying Episode 4. I'm not saying A New Hope. I'm saying this is Star Wars, because that's how we thought of it back in the day. And having that stuff, we knew it. There was that vibe, and that was it from there.
You have quite a few of your original things, just like I do, from when you were a kid.
I have right there.
Which is like
every figure.
Like that's, I think, not to hoard this, but like I think that's part of the reason why we get along so well, is that the fact that we naturally had a kind of similar outlook on things, and we trip out because it's like you meet tons of people. It's like, oh yeah, I had Star Wars or I had G.I. Joe or whatever, but they just blew it up in the backyard. They lost the stuff in the backyard.
That would never have happened. Every toy I got, we kept pristine, and I wasn't playing with them anymore. Especially when G.I. Joe, the 3 3/4 inch came in, and He-Man came in. I set up dioramas. I didn't play with them. I set up dioramas in my mom's living room. My mom's nice living room where you couldn't wear your shoes, and the living room that only company was allowed into. She let me go out there.
Living room, not that I knew.
And I would set this great stuff up. It was just for fun. I would look at it. I never played with my toys.
If you were lucky, the 1970s couches had that nice earthy tone. You make that perfect Eternian.
Oh, you make caves and weird stuff out of your couch. But going to when I was 20, I met my wife in 1994. And when she showed me the toys she had when she was a kid, besides Barbies, but she had Robotech and Thundercats, things like that. And then I was like, oh my God.
That's a trip.
And,
that's a keeper.
And then I was like, okay, I'm taking you back to my house to show you the stuff in my parents' garage. All my old stuff, pulled it out. That's when the collecting really started for me. We started hitting all of the toy shows and you name it. 1994 is when, really, I guess you can say 78 became a toy collector, but really 1994 is when it really
My
kicked
wife doesn't collect toys. The most valuable thing for me is the dual setup of the original Kenner 12-inch Indiana Jones, complete with pistol, whip, and hat and all of his equipment, all that jazz, right next to a Polaroid that was taken of me Christmas morning of 1981.
I think so, yeah.
Where I'm sitting at my grandma's house, sitting at my grandma's house, like just doing this like cool pose with the Indiana Jones.
For me, there's two things that are in this room. One of them is the Star Wars Early kit, the 4 figures, right? I still have the Luke. That's a cool thing. I would probably put that my number 2. But I think the number 1 thing that is my grail, and it does hold value to it. It does, is the removable cowl Mego Batman that came out in 1972. Again, I was not born in 72, born in 74, but I have very fond memories, believe it or not, when I was 2 and 3 years of age. Playing with that figure, I loved taking off the cowl and playing with Batman. I knew it was Batman, I knew who Robin was, but I loved that removable cowl Batman. That thing, it's not my original one, it's right up over here, and I love that figure. That's probably my all-time favorite figure, I think. I'm pretty sure it is of all time. That's my grail.
You know, this is, in a way, having a physical record of these things that brought us joy. It's kind of a physical photograph of this experience in our lives.
Yeah.
It's not like we're trying to escape from cousin or reality or anything like that. You know, I mean, I think that's kind of the question. Like, what is it about the passion?
It's our experiences and
it's a little bit
all the
fantasy.
fun stuff that we had when we were kids.
Yeah.
You know, memories of our family from the back in the days, and,
Sure.
and you name it. That's one of the things that too many kids nowadays, we're going in a weird direction, by the way. So many kids nowadays, their memories are going to be video games. Nothing wrong with that.
Hey, I like video games.
Nothing wrong with that. But that physical thing, that toy,
Well,
the action figure, is going to be lost. The stuff behind me, the Mego stuff, that goes back to the 90s. I spent a lot of time doing that. But right now, I mean, I still look at Mego stuff. As far as new vintage Mego stuff, that's hard. The stuff that I want is pretty rare, like a red-haired Dracula from the Mego days, the original Mego days. But nowadays, I do collect the new Mego stuff that's out, the resurgence of Mego, I do. Getting back into the bootleg knockoff stuff more and more and more, because I'm drawn to that because it's so weird and out there and not everybody had it, and it has a charming essence to it, like this guy RoboCop over here. This is
a charming
this is a
I'm gonna get cancer in my fingers from holding
this is a knockoff RoboCop that came from Mexico. This is not. So you don't play, these guys are a little bit different. But the bootlegs that came from Mexico and other different countries are really awesome. The bootlegs are different than knockoffs. We have Warlord from Remco, right here, this guy right here. This is what I'm talking about. The stuff that came out in the 80s, even 70s, there's so much weirdness that came out back in those days. It just doesn't get enough respect, but does hold some high value to it.
He has a zebra cape, dude.
He does, but he's pretty cool. This is a DC character, by
I mean,
the way.
I think he's cool, but he has a zebra
This guy's
cape.
actually an astronaut, and it's a long story, but he's too cool. Run-of-the-mill figures like He-Man, G.I. Joe, they were expensive. So that's why you had a lot of these knockoff and bootlegs that came out here in the United States and different countries, because families could buy them. They were affordable. Remco, Warlord figures, gotta have them. And Imperial Dragons, Imperial Toys, awesome, good stuff.
Warduke collects primarily older, vintage, retro stuff.
Mostly.
I have made my fight with the newer stuff. And I think that's another reason why our collection tendencies kind of complement each other. We've both been swayed both ways. I sometimes collect older, he sometimes collects newer, but our compasses kind of gravitate towards those, respective ranges where he sticks with the older stuff and I stick with the newer stuff. And I'm at peace with that. I definitely love the older vintage stuff. I mean, you have to respect that. But take, for example, like the new Hasbro, the Vintage Collection Star Wars stuff, right? It captures for me some of the elements of what I loved about the original line, which is the great card art. I think that the card art itself, just like album art, has its own discipline that you can kind of get into. It's
Yeah.
like, this is why this is the superior card art for an action figure.
This guy is more into the newer stuff
Yeah,
with the vintage look to it.
Right.
So to make you understand, at one point in time, he had all the original 12-backs carded. He does not have them anymore.
Not quite, not quite.
Because he got rid of them.
I got so obsessed about the quality and the state of the condition of my vintage stuff, the bubbles started actually yellowing a little bit. And I didn't like that feeling of being like trapped by it. So I got rid of them, and that's what kind of freed me, is I could buy the new stuff and have fun with it. That's just me. Collecting itself, the actual aspect of putting something on a shelf, is almost kind of like a totem for something that's deep.
Yeah.
I mean, I really truly believe that. I'm not trying to like make that up. I mean, I see this stuff, and in my own eyes, it's kind of like an augmented reality kind of thing. They come to life on the shelf, you know?
Yeah.
I see the movie come to life.
For me, that's a big chunk. The first thing I can put for myself is me, or we were lucky enough to grow up when we did and experience what we did with the different TV shows and cartoons and toys that we had. And if I could go back in time and live back in those days, I would do it. It'd be kind of hard to do without my wife and my daughter, but I would love to go back in time and just live there and just stay there. I loved those days. We had a lot of great pop culture back then. For me.
And to the questions, like, what's the ultimate goal of collecting? Is perpetuating the spirit, you know, to just, you know, at a kind of shallow level, to say that, like, oh, we collect because it makes us happy. That doesn't really answer the question. So
I mean,
it's kind of an ambiguous question. You know?
The ultimate goal of collecting is not really how far can you get. I started doing this because of my experience when I was a kid, and I'm going to keep on doing it to keep that torch lit, because I believe that what we experienced when we were kids was just so awesome. I'm going to keep on doing it. The ultimate goal is to keep it going, and the vintage stuff, even new stuff is cool. There's a lot of really cool new toys out there. But especially the old stuff is just to keep it going, keep that imagination going, keep it, you know, keep it thriving. Don't play too many video games, damn it. Play with your toys.
You still wake up sometimes, don't you? Wake up in the dark and hear the screaming of the lambs.
Since you're a kid, or when you're like into things like this, you know, like you visualize something in your head, and sometimes companies don't pick that up or don't make it. So therefore you gotta take it into your own hands to build something that you can't go into a store and buy. Toy photographers, they tend to shoot a lot of the same stuff. So I wanted to shoot my own stuff that nobody had. So therefore, if I made the stuff, you know, I was gonna be the only one with it. My name is Roger Gaitan, and I'm at Notorious_collector, and I am a collector, diorama maker, and toy photographer. I've been collecting toys basically all my life. Since I was a little kid, I was one of those kids that played for hours with toys. Then in high school, I was still collecting all throughout my life. Even when I was in the streets, you know, doing whatever I was doing in the street, I was still buying figures, because that's just always been part of who I've been. I'm kind of all over the place. I like to collect vintage Ninja Turtles. I like to collect 1/6. I like to collect 1/12, Marvel, some DC, horror, movie figures. I like urban street stuff too, so basically whatever catches my eye. I shop at Frankenstein's mainly. I don't do eBay, I don't do Amazon, but I get a lot of word of mouth. Like, people hit me up like, hey dude, I got this for sale. Hey dude, I know this guy that has this for sale. I know this guy that wants to trade this. That's how I get most of my stuff. I don't even shop, like, shit comes to me. But that's pretty much the way it works with me. I got pieces that are pretty valuable. I think my favorite would probably be like my Joker, Hot Toys, my once custom, like a lot of my custom stuff I really love. My grill, like I said, it would probably have to be maybe Michael Myers, once fully custom Michael Myers. I think that would probably be like my grill. But I have a few, but I mean, that's the first one that comes to mind. I don't think I could not collect. You know what I mean? Like, there's people that do it to fit in or because it's hot right now. I've been collecting since I was a kid, so to me it's like, it's part of my life, it's part of who I am. I'm not in it because it's trendy. You know, it's just, I can't be without collecting. I don't only collect figures, I collect all kinds of shit, so, you know what I mean? So it's just part of who I am, basically. I also build dioramas. I've been doing that for a minute now. I started off because of my photography, when I started getting into toy photography. Then a buddy of mine was like, hey man, can you make me one? And then from there, it just kind of took off. As far as my dioramas go, they're what you see every day in the streets, they're urban. A lot of the stuff I build is stuff that I seen with my own eyes, like a trash can full of graffiti, a wall all tagged up, like basically what I see, I reflect into my work. I think that I'm a collector before anything, and then photographer, but I think photography is my new love. I think that I'm falling more and more in love with photography. Now I'm picking up things in my collection to shoot them. And a bunch of my buddies were like, dude, you gotta start an Instagram. You could network with the people on Instagram. Now like, I didn't really want the drama or, the responsibility, but when I did, that's where I came across toy photography, and I was like, there's other people that do it. I used to take pictures of my figures and just kind of keep it to myself, like I thought it was a little weird. But then when I found out there was a whole community of people that do that, I was blown away and I was just sucked in. Been doing it ever since. Just last night I was driving and my son was in the car with me, and I asked Google, what is toy photography? And she said, toy photography is when a toy photographer tries to bring a toy to life through the lens. And it's funny because that's exactly what I would have answered if you asked me that question. So Google had it on. Thank you, Google. You're 100% on the money with that. It's funny because when I started, I would see other people that did dioramas and just for the photography. So I started basically doing it for myself. I guess I started getting pretty good at it and people started noticing and they wanted the work, and I was kind of at first like giving them away. But like the Joker says, when you're good at something, never do it for free. So yeah, eventually I started selling my work. I also do a lot of networking where if there's a photographer that I really like his work, I'll give him a diorama of his choice, and all he has to do is basically give me a shout out and keep posting my name and every shot he takes with it. And it's crazy because I've actually been featured in big pages and even including ESPN. They featured my friend Jax at Plastic Action, and I got like 3,000 something likes and views. So, that was a big accomplishment. You know what? People think I'm very strange. Like I said, I'm from the streets, so I'm too nerdy for my gangster homies and I'm too gangster for my nerdy homies, I talk about toys all the time. I talk about collecting all the time, because it's part of who I am, like I said, and I'm not ashamed of it at all. When they walk into my man cave, they trip out, man. They're like, whoa, this looks like a store, I don't really care what people think, to be honest with you, though. I could care less, I do this with my sons. They enjoy it, I enjoy it. I spend a lot of time with them. I'm teaching them something, and that's all that matters to me, to be honest with you.
So what's on your wish list as far as like toys?
Ah man, where do I start, man? There's so much new stuff, like the new cable, the mechanical. That thing's amazing. It's sold out in Frankenstein's. All my vendor friends are like, I told you to pick it up and I didn't. So now it's up to like 300 and something for the people that do have it. But I mean, I'll get my hands on it, so I'm not really tripping. I'm gonna get my hands on you. Remember that, Cable. You're gonna be in one of these shelves in the back because that's what I do. I got girls that have been sold out for years and they're sitting behind me. My ultimate goal as a collector is to keep having fun and use it as an outlet and have fun with my kids. Enjoy the time doing it. Because when this stops being fun, that's the day I'll walk away. Simple as that. They can find me on Instagram. I'm at notorious_collector. Just hit me up, DM me. I'm very reasonable. I take trades for toys, or other stuff like that. Hit me up, get at me, and we'll make it happen.
It kind of just came out of the blue. I think me and my wife were talking one day, and she asked me if I could do anything, what would I want to do? And I said, maybe one day open a little toy shop. That was after we started collecting. And then it just little by little, I started getting more and more stuff. And then the opportunity came where my brothers, who have a Halloween store, a little section of the store opened up where we could have a little storefront. Once that came, we basically said, let's just put the toy store together and run with it and see what happens. If we do good, we go out of business. If it still doesn't, we have a lot of stuff that we get to keep. So it works out both ways. My name is Michael Martinez, and I'm the owner of Toy Depot in Southgate, California. I'm a toy collector. I probably started about 4 or 5 years ago. I just started buying little random toys on eBay or wherever I could find them, and then just started going out of control. Started getting more and more. Master of the Universe, Ninja Turtles, Karate Kid. I think Karate Kid was some of the stuff that I found that I really liked from the 80s that I didn't have when I was a kid, and just took off from there too. Street Fighter was big when I was a kid, so I have Street Fighter G.I. Joes, I have Street Fighter games, I have a chess set, Street Fighter 2 chess set, so I like sports memorabilia as well. I don't have any in here, but that's something that I like. And props, like movie props, horror stuff. My wife collects as well, so just our little house got flooded with 80s toys.
So what can people find in your shop?
Pretty much anything from vintage to new stuff, like a lot of the collectible NECA, Mezco, Trick or Treat Studio stuff, and then a lot of the vintage stuff like Thundercats, Master of the Universe stuff, G.I. Joes, Ninja Turtles. For girls, Polly Pockets, Rainbow Brights. Pretty much we try and find as much stuff as we can just and throw it out there. Whatever comes in, comes in. We try and keep a good flow of stuff coming in and out of the store. We buy, sell, and trade. Most of the time it's sell, and then people come in and they bring their stuff in. A lot of the time they were old collectors that want to get something new and just sell what they had in the past, or they're tired of it. They're ex-wives who mad at their husbands, they come in, they'll sell their stuff, and then we benefit from that, and then we trade. A lot of the times we trade with other toy shops at different cities, so that works out too. Everybody's been really good about that, so we could switch stuff around from our store to theirs, so it works out for everybody. You never have enough. When I first started, it wasn't as much as I have now, and I thought, oh man, it's not enough. I have to look for new stuff, start hunting for new stuff, and just finding wherever I can find. And if I go from today to when I first started, I probably have 3 times as much things as I had before, but it still doesn't feel like, I still feel like the first day where I don't have enough stuff and somebody's gonna come in, they're not gonna have what they want, and then they're gonna leave empty-handed. So that's one of the curses that I have for this. We started May 4th, May the 4th, 2019, so we've been in business going on 4 months, so. The Halloween store is right next door. It sits on this side of the building. It's about 3,000 square feet, and that kind of started as a fluke. We actually opened up as a general merchandise store. The recession hit 2008, 2009. We were looking to sell it. My brother bought a Halloween lot. A lot of costumes, he bought that for really, really cheap. The guy we were gonna sell the store to, he came in and he was gonna buy the store. He looked around, he said, okay, I'll buy it. I'll come back next week with the money. We'll sign the papers and we'll buy you out, basically. He got in trouble, went to jail. We haven't seen him since, so we just had to go with it and just say, you know what, just sell the costumes. We'll see what happens. And turned out it was a hit. Halloween was a hit, and ever since then, I think since like 2009, we've been a Halloween store on that side. Halloween's been a huge thing for our family, like once a year, so you don't have to work every day. And I don't really run it anymore, my brothers run it. They work really hard September to October 31st, and then it's kind of gives them a big chunk of money. They can relax for the rest of the year and kind of just do other things. So it works out for everybody. I don't really have any grails. I think I have 2 toys that I've kept from my childhood. That I have an old Kermit the Frog doll that's not here that I got on my first Christmas. And then I have, when I was opening the store, my mom found our box of toys that she never threw away. And there was nothing in there basically. It was one little muscle man. I think I have it in here. That was the only toy we remember having that she didn't throw away. So I have it right there. So that's probably one of the more sentimental things. Everything else has just been bought over the years. But that one's from my childhood. LJN wrestlers in the package, if I could find some of those. Sealed, like Andre the Giant. I had a Hulk Hogan sealed one. I sold it a few months back. Thundercat. Pretty much now it's basically in the package. If I could find them in the package, that's basically what I'm looking for is my grails. I'm not really the collector that, oh, I want to find this one because nobody has it. It's more what I liked in the past, like Brave Star. I had a couple Brave Stars when I was younger that I didn't have anymore. Thundercats, I didn't have any when I was a kid. Transformers, G1s, so those are cool. I like G1s. Megatron in the box, something like that would be good. I have a Megatron G1, but it's not complete. It's loose, it's beat up, but it's still pretty cool. It transforms and it does the job, so. The store's, it's in Southgate, California. The address is 13422 Paramount Boulevard, Southgate. We have an Instagram, it's toy.depot. eBay, we don't really do online sales just because I'd rather have people come in and look at the toys and experience for themselves. We do have an eBay account, but I don't even know the name. It might be like my name and a bunch of numbers behind it. But I only sell like, kind of random things, newer things that you can find anywhere. So that's the only reason for the eBay store. And just have it just on ice if I ever need it down the road. So I don't really do too much online sales with that. I have nephews and nieces, I have a daughter, and I love giving them toys so they can get that memory. That was one of the reasons we opened the store, is people walk in the store and they think, oh, I remember going to the store with my dad and I remember getting this, or I had this toy when I was growing up. I don't know what happened to it, so that's kind of what I want to build and grow, is people coming in and getting those memories, those old good memories when they were a kid. They got it for Christmas. Their parents took them to Toys R Us or KB Toy Store when they were younger, and just getting that good vibe, that good nostalgic feeling when they were younger, and just bringing it back to life for them. So I want them to pass that on to their kids instead of going on eBay or going on Amazon and just clicking and getting a package in the mail. So I'm basically trying to build that nostalgic memories for their kids when they grow older. So that's kind of the basis of the store.
If I love a film, I'm like, I need to own something from that film. I collect a lot of like NECA action figures, Legos, alternative screen printed movie posters from companies like Mondo, Bottleneck, Blu-rays, records, camera equipment, recording equipment. If I feel like I love something a lot, then I feel like I need to own something from that movie. Whether it be the actual physical copy, the Blu-ray, or DVD or VHS, or action figure or a poster. I feel like if I can't get enough of it, I don't know. I want to own something tangible that goes along with that film. Hi, my name is Francis Galuppi, and I am a filmmaker and collector. I probably started collecting like the stuff that I have now 8-10 years ago. I mean, I've always collected stuff. Even when I was a kid, I had like a stamp collection, I had a coin collection. I collected random shit, and now, but like as far as like the horror figures and like Blu-ray collection, all that stuff was probably like maybe about 10 years ago. The action figures I get from NECA Lady, Best in Collectibles at Frankenstein. The other stuff, it's usually I'm like hunting it down on eBay or Mondo on their drops. There's this website called Espresso Beans. That's where you can find like posters and art, or if it's Legos, I usually just get them from the Lego store. I feel like I'm just like a completist with everything, so if I start one thing, I just have to keep going. And then there's been some stuff where like I'll start collecting and then I realize like, shit, this is gonna be a rabbit hole. I need to stop now and sell my shit before it gets any deeper. Yeah, it's not good. So this room is where I mainly house everything, or at least most of my toys. I have like a portfolio with posters that I can't fit. I ran out of wall space, which for the longest time, every piece of art I bought, I would put it on my walls, I frame it, plexiglass, UV, non-glare plexi, and like I wanted to display everything, and now I'm out of room, so I just keep everything in a portfolio. One of my favorite pieces I own, and maybe just because it's sitting right in front of me, but is my my Alfred Hitchcock 1/6 scale figure. I'm just like a huge fan of Hitchcock, so that's definitely one of my favorite pieces. One of the first pieces I got though that like kind of started this whole thing was the Hot Toys. Mars Attacks Martians. So probably those would be up there. And then Back to the Future, I love Back to the Future, so all the Hot Toys Back to the Future stuff, like the DeLorean, Doc, Marty, I love it all. But those are probably my favorites. So actually the first thing that got me into Back to the Future was like trying to do cosplay of Marty. I was just like trying to track down the exact vest he wore and the exact jacket and the pants, and I got about half of the stuff, but the other stuff is just like impossible to find. Then I started getting into like props and the replicas from the films. I don't own any like originals props, but it's all replicas, but it's still cool, still love it. The ultimate grail, which I think if I am somewhat successful and I have money to spend in the future, I think it would go to like straight like screen used props for movies. I think that'd be the dream. I went to a Leica museum and they had like all like the Paranorman puppets and Coraline, and oh man, I would love to have like an actual Paranorman puppet. I think when people come in here, their main question is like, how much is this shit worth? And if I tell them, like I have this piece, this guy right here was like one of the first pieces I got, and it goes for a lot of money. And so I'll tell people like, yeah, I paid $150 for that, but it's worth this much now. And they're just like, what the fuck are you doing? Sell it. Put that towards a down payment on a house or your next film or whatever. And yeah, I just don't think I'll ever get rid of it. Because again, I'm a completist. So if I get rid of that, then I would probably be tempted just to sell the whole collection. I would be like, it's not complete. It's, it's pointless. My friend Scott, we would have to make like school projects. So we would do films and like just really stupid films that we shot on our camcorder. We had no editing software, so it was all like edited in camera. After high school, I bought a camera. We started making films again. Just like really simple stuff like in my house with like no crew or anything. And from there, it's kind of graduated.
You are a burnt offering, a food offering, an aroma pleasing the Lord. Aaron's sons shall arrange the pieces, including the head and the fat, on the wood that is burning on the altar.
We shot a film called High Desert Hell a couple years ago. It just won the Wes Craven Award at the Catalina Film Festival last week. And we shot another film in April called The Gemini Project. We shot that in Oregon. That's just about done. So I'm working on a feature film that we're going to be shooting next year with my friends Justin Mabry and James at Local Boogeyman. We're probably going to shoot that about maybe July next year. So yeah, just prepping for that. I think I'll always collect. I mean, I think it's just part of me. I think I'll always be collecting something. And it might change from what I'm collecting now. I don't think I'll ever sell this stuff. I definitely want to focus on more important things. It's just, you know, I'm addicted, what can I say? But honestly, like, I've met some of my closest friends through collecting, so that there alone makes it all worth it. I had a friend from high school. We didn't really know each other too well, but like we were playing in similar bands, and I was buying like a NECA figure on eBay or something. And I noticed he was in Covina. I worked in Covina, so I just like messaged him. I was like, "Hey, would you? I noticed you're in Covina. If I met you in person, could you like knock $10 off or whatever?" And like right away, he was like, "Hey, by the way, this is Casey from American Lies." And I realized I went to school with him. We met up and like we've been super close friends. Yeah, and I don't think I ever would have hung out with Casey if it weren't for, you know, collecting NECA figures and tracking them down on eBay. So my friend Scott, who was on this channel, Magnificent World of Toys, I mean, he gets it. Like we pretty much, as far as like action figures, we have the same stuff. Like he's my collecting buddy. My wife is cool with it. She would definitely like me to save more money and not spend it on this stuff, but yeah, but my family thinks, they just think I'm fucking stupid, and that's okay.
Since I was a little kid, I've been drawn to art. I will be drawing and playing with clay. So it was very clear for me that my path, it was going to be in something related to the plastic arts. That's how I pretty much, my whole life was geared into that field. My name is Gabriel Garcia. I am a prototype sculptor for the collectible industry. I'm also an art director and product developer for collectibles. Commercially, getting paid for about 30 years, but I've been sculpting since I was 5 years old. This is something that it was a second nature for me. Through the years, I tried to learn techniques and stuff like that, but this is something that I was gifted with, you know. I just knew how to make things out of clay. I started as a traditional sculptor, and I was using clays, oil-based clays, and sculpting wax and Chevan clay. About 10 years ago, I turned into digital, and I've been using ZBrush, and it allows me to create digital sculptures. The pros for sculpting digitally against traditional is speed. You can do stuff very complex in a very short time. It also allows you to have way more detail, like super extreme textures that you won't be able to do by hand. Cons, you don't get to touch what you created in the computer until it's printed. When you're working traditionally, you have this, so you're touching it with your hands, you can turn it around, and when you're done, you have the piece right there. That would be the only negative part of it, but it's not even a bad thing. My thing is monsters. Everything related to creatures, fantasy, horror. And why? Because ever since I remember, I love horror movies. I was what you call a monster kid. I had a huge fascination to the universal monsters. And so yeah, that's my favorite subject. Sculpting wise, I'm a huge fan of Takayuki Takeya. He's a Japanese sculptor that I admire. And also Steve Wang. Steve Wang is another master of special effects, and I love his sculpting and his painting abilities. And talking about painters, Frank Frazetta was my first big rock star that I would look for all his artwork and stuff and try to emulate it. I try to sculpt things that I want to have in my con collection, but on the same token, I try to sculpt things to sell. I do my trade shows every year, so I need to have new stuff to offer. My main show that I do is Monster Palooza in California. Originally it was in Burbank, now it's Pasadena. The second show that I do is Wonder Fest in Louisville, Kentucky. And the third show that I just added is Designer Con, Orange County. I would say 1/6 scale will be my favorite in general. I do sculpt a lot of custom-made zombie heads that are 1/6 scale. Also female figures like model kits that are 1/6 scale. The second one will be 1/3, which is what I've been doing a lot on my new stuff. I sculpt busts that are 1/3 scale. It's a little larger. I like to have stuff that is a little more impressive. 1/6 scale and 1/3. The line of product that I sculpted for Gentle Giant Studios based on the movie The Pan's Labyrinth. I sculpted 2 statues, 1/4 scale statues, and 3 mini busts at 1/6 scale, and 1 exclusive mini bust for Comic-Con. That full line, that's one of my most, my favorite, and the one that I'm most proud of. When I was younger, my friends used to call me names because I was into all of this kind of stuff. Now I'm cool because I'm into all this kind of stuff. So the tables have changed. I was very blessed to have parents that they were very supportive in that aspect. And I never knew that this kind of stuff that I was doing as a pastime or hobby, it will turn into my way of living. You have to push out 1,000 bad sculptings before you get to the good one. So meaning that you have to sculpt a lot of stuff in order to increase your skills or improve your skills as an artist. So definitely you have to practice a lot. I do sell all my stuff that I do. My Facebook page, where you can reach me and see pictures of all the stuff that I have available for sale, is Gabriel Garcia Studios. And my Instagram is pretty much the same, Gabriel Garcia Studios. I think the stuff that I like the most about my career or occupation is that it allowed me to meet my heroes, the people that I admire. And that's very rewarding. And sometimes when they have nice things to say about my own work, it's really nice to hear that from them. I think even when I'm gonna be like retired, I'm still gonna be sculpting. I don't think that I have ever worked like in my life, because the stuff that I do is like a hobby that turned into my job. I always feel that I'm doing what I like and I'm happy. So yeah, I'm gonna be doing the same until retire or until I die.
Hi, I'm Scott Cherry, better known as Barbarian Rage. I make toys. I'm a painter, I'm a sculptor, a bootlegger, some people call it. Ever since I was 5 years old, been drawing, doing comics. Later on, I started painting and sculpting in high school and stop motion animation. I did a little bit of animation at one point. Painting, black velvet paintings, oils, acrylics, watercolors, everything. And then I specialize in making toys now, but there's so much that goes into that. Even a bootleg toy will involve a small amount of sculpture. If I want to do an original toy, you have to sculpt it. That involves design, sketch, and then package design. Everything has to come together.
Why do you create?
I've tried to answer that question. I don't know, but I just have to. I can't let the dust settle. Something always has to be made. I have an identical twin brother, and we both do the same thing. We have to create. And I talk to him about why I'm an artist, and an artist needs to create. It's inherent. My influences are vast, whether it be H.R. Giger, Guar, to David Lynch, or a Cocoa Puffs commercial from 1983. It all sort of gets put together in a tumbler, and it spills out looking like the stuff that I make. Masters of the Universe and Star Wars is just what I grew up on. And I think collectors, what you're trying to do is you're trying to recapture part of your youth. And whether you're collecting it or making it, I think what you're trying to do is you're trying to recapture that part of your youth that we all hold on to so dearly. That nostalgia that you have keeps your childhood alive. I use all different types of materials. I mean, I have literally pulled a paintbrush out of the garbage can and used it. I'll use a toothpick if it serves me right. The obvious answer for the toys is resin, but I've also used foam, rubber, anything that is at my disposal, I use. I've done a couple of collaborations. Sometimes I'll have an idea, I'll match up the artist. Even though that I can paint and draw, do the packaging artwork myself, sometimes I'll have a vision of their artwork on the package. I worked with Paul Rentler on this X-ray spec Mechanic. Paul Rentler does all this really cool comic book ad collage work. When I thought of this project, I thought that he would be perfect for it. Instead of trying to do my best impression of him, I just reached out and asked him if he wanted to do it. What he did far surpassed anything that I could have done. My favorite project is the project that I'm working on right now. I'm trying to get this comic book made. Once the comic book is out, I'm going to do some toys and everything. So it's an all-encompassing project. It's not just like Star Wars toy with a funny package. I hope that this will be an ongoing thing that grows in its own universe. My favorite project is something that you can't see yet. I've been collecting comic books ever since I was a little kid. I still have the first couple comic books that I've ever collected. I don't have a massive collection or anything. I try not to have too much of a collection of one thing. Like the toys that I have, they're not, high-ticket items or anything. They're all garbage that I just think they're funny or clever or whatever. I have a couple bootlegs. I collect VHS tapes. I've unloaded that collection, and that's the one that I keep trying to get rid of, but it slowly gets bigger and bigger. I have a couple Grail pieces. I have a glow-in-the-dark Arrakis from Sagittarius, which is Mike and Tracy. I really like those two. I have a Butcher from Acquired Taste. I think he makes some amazing toys. Those are the two things that really stand out. I have some Mexican bootleg stuff, some Mexican He-Man bootleg stuff that I really like. Everything is for sale. Everything's for sale. Go to barbarianrage.com. That's www.barbarianrage.com. I'm on Instagram at barbarian_rage. Just put in Barbarian Rage into Google, and then under all of the Dungeons and Dragons stuff, I should be somewhere on the first page. The Warriors Guild is sort of my answer to Patreon. I've been on Patreon since basically the beginning, and I had a falling out with them. I just don't think that they deserved the cut that they were taking, so I created my own service. The number one question that I get from everyone was, "Hey Scott, I want to know, how do I make toys?" So the Warriors Guild, I do all of my blogs on how I make toys. I give away all my secrets. You can ask me any question in there. You sign up for $1. It helps me as a working artist. I do this full time. If I know how to do it, I will give you the information, or I will work with you. I've helped lots of artists, lots of toy makers. There's blogs on there, and I give away toys every month. I gave away over $2,000 worth of toys in 2019. And so if you're feeling lucky, go sign up on the Warriors Guild. BarbarianRage.com.
Actually, when I was a kid, my dad and one of my brothers used to build model kits. So I used to see my dad making like the balsa wood planes. My brother used to make the hot rods. My older brother was into the military stuff, so I just kind of felt my way in there and started doing the military stuff and got into the cars, low riders and all that stuff. That's where it all started. This is Todd from Todd Action Toys. I've been building model kits, dioramas, custom action figures, painting for a good 30 plus years now. Biggest hobby is probably model kits, building, painting, from lowrider model cars to even 1/35 scale figures. Since I was about 7 years old, I've been building model kits. Action figures, 1/6 scale stuff, probably the last 10 years now I've been into that. Probably the 1/6 stuff I collect, more or less military that I actually collect. Is kind of weird because I do a lot of horror stuff. I love the horror movies. I love kind of creating my own scary horror kind of characters. I don't know what the thrill is, but it was kind of like my first love, even as a kid, was the horror movies, the classic horror stuff, like the Universal monsters. Right now, I'm kind of known for doing like the Star Wars homies, like the Star Wars Cholo figures. You might have seen them online, on Instagram. A lot of people know me for making those right now. I used to do a lot of custom stuff with the NECA and McFarlane toys, and when I started seeing the 1/6 stuff, it just kind of blew my mind and I really got into them. I don't know what drew me to it. It was just, they were kind of unique. Before they were around, I had never seen anything like it, compared to maybe like G.I. Joe stuff, which I really wasn't into. I normally use the stuff from like Walmart, not really expensive. They really work pretty good. The Martha Stewart stuff is really good. I even have old paints that are over 20 years old I still use, the Horizon paints. These paints are like some of the best. They're still really good. You know, I still use them. My oldest son, he's a really good artist. He's great at portraits. Actually, I have some of my oldest son's work here. Some of the masks you see hanging up, some of the little portraits that he sculpted also. He watched me when he was younger and he kind of got into that feel of creating and stuff as well. It's a great feeling. Once something I really put my energy into, once it's done, I kind of get a really great feeling out of it. And sometimes it's not even about selling or making money, but it's the reaction of people is what really, gets me excited as well. A lot of the custom work that I do, especially like the Star Wars Cholo stuff, they go really fast. They're not here very long. I mean, hip hop, of course, is a big influence. You know, the Wild Star graffiti era back in the 80s kind of inspired me a lot as well. It's just seeing real life. You know, things that you see every day is what kind of inspires me to create, you know. I do sell my work. You can catch me here at Frank & Son's Collectible Show in City of Industry. And you can find me also on Instagram, Todd Action Instagram. Just message me and go from there. Oh, I'll be doing this forever. I'll be 90 years old and still, you know, trying to paint. It's just a thrill. It's more than a hobby. It's kind of what kind of keeps me calm, keeps me level.
And most people would say that the 80s were incredible, and no doubt they were, if you had money. You know, there was a lot of great franchises that came out, and turning on the TV, watching Masters of the Universe, and then watching all the ads for all the incredible toys that would come out. I mean, there was Masters of the Universe, there was G.I. Joes, then came Thundercats, Wheeled Warriors, Silverhawks, Centurions, you name it. There was just so many great toys. The bad thing though was that growing up poor, my parents really didn't have money for those kinds of toys. And I remember going to the department stores and they'd have a whole section of Masters of the Universe, all the latest figures, Transformers and G.I. Joes, and I just remember always wanting those. I mean, I can't say I didn't have any toys. I always had things to play with, and I always had my imagination, which is, I think, one of the things that has really helped me in life. And I had soldiers, plastic soldiers, I had marbles, and what I would do at times was I'd cut out the Masters of the Universe ads, and I'd have all these little cutouts of my favorite action figures. I mean, they were about this, super tiny, and I had them all stuffed in an envelope, and that's how I would play. That's how I would, that's how I filled the void, if you will. But then also, I'd play with my toy soldiers, and I had little animals, and I would pretend that these little soldiers were G.I. Joes or He-Man and Skeletor and Beastman and Triclops and all those great characters. Those are around the early years when I was probably like in around first, second grade. And around that time was particularly rough too, because my parents were just about to divorce, and they ultimately did. So my mother took custody of us, and it wasn't until about maybe a year and a half, 2 years later, when my father fought for custody for us and eventually received custody of us, we went to live with my aunt, his sister. And I'll never forget our first Christmas there. I remember, they had us fill out our Santa wish list, which I had never done before. And I remember I said, I want He-Man. And that's all I put. And lo and behold, I woke up Christmas morning, and there was a He-Man and Battle Cat playset, which my uncle had so graciously provided me with. And it was one of the most touching moments of my life, because, that was the first time I ever received a He-Man action figure. There was no better toy at that time. He-Man and Battle Cat, Cringer. It was just awesome. So after my parents were divorced, and we moved in with my father, we would go spend weekends with my mother. One time, so I'm in the restroom and I see my father's pants in there, and I realized he had some money in there. I grabbed the $20 bill, and so the following day I went with my mother. I said if she took me to the mall, I'd buy her a hamburger, and she obliged. And so we went to the mall, and I treated her to a Western bacon cheeseburger from Carl's Jr., and I had one myself because I had always wanted to try one. And then after I went to KB Toys. So I bought myself these Return of the Jedi 3-packs. I bought myself a Serpentor, and I bought myself a G.I. Joe Hydro Sled. And I remember I played all weekend long. I was there with my mother, and I had such a great time. And then I wanted to take them home with my dad, but then my mother said that wouldn't be a good idea, because then he'd ask where I got the money to get those. And so they stayed with her, and those were the toys I would play with every time I'd go visit her. So right behind me, as you can see, it's a strip mall. So somewhere under all those buildings is my box of toys. My first Battle Cat and my first He-Man. One of my fondest memories was during my birthday, where my father took me to a department store known as Woolworth. The figure that caught my attention was a Modulock. I remember just being so happy and taking that thing home, opening it up and taking them apart and rebuilding them, and it was just so much fun because I finally had a villain to fight my He-Man. So my dad used to live in this row of bungalows while we were living at my aunt's. And every weekend, my younger brother and myself would go and stay with him. So one of the cool things about spending weekends with my dad is that he would buy us fast food and he'd buy us Garbage Pail Kids. And the cool thing about the complex where my dad was living, there was a lot of kids there. And we would play with them and we would trade Garbage Pail Kids and stuff with them. And it was like very, very cool. So that complex was going to be torn down. We would notice every weekend there'd be less and less people there. One day, the people in the front bungalow abandoned the house. That's where we found basically some really cool things. I remember they left behind a Lionel from Thundercats, and so now I had a Lionel, some mask toys. I had a nice little bundle of toys. Until one day, we're at school. My father didn't come to pick us up, so we were wondering if he had perhaps been at home. So we walked home and he wasn't there. I remember my aunt came looking for us and she found us at the apartment and she took us home. So when we got to the new place, I realized my father had not taken our toys. We begged and begged him to take us back to pick them up, and he refused and he said, I'll simply buy you new toys. And it took a while, but eventually he did. And that's when we moved to one of the coolest places that we lived in when we were children. East of us, there was two arcades. There was the Pac-Man arcade and the Western arcade. But there was also a pretty cool comic book shop. It was more of a bookstore. It was known as Book Village. Every afternoon, either I'd go to the arcade or I'd go to the comic store. To the west was a multiplex theater, which was a discount theater known as the Academy. And every weekend, I'd go and I'd watch Jaws 3. Then right after I'd go watch Predator, and right after I'd go watch Die Hard. And then I remember I'd be walking home. Here's this third grader walking home at night after watching 3 rated R movies. Much farther west was Plaza Pasadena. And I remember it would take us about half an hour to 45 minutes to walk from my dad's place to the mall. And so really, since it took us so long to walk there, we could only make that trip during the weekends. So sometimes my cousin would come over and we'd go to the mall. I remember the first time we went, we saw a basket, and it was this big basket. And it was filled with muscle 4-packs. And the 4-packs were 10 cents. And we couldn't believe it. I think I must have had like $3. And that was 30 packs of muscles. I was super thrilled. I remember we went home and we made our own little wrestling ring. And we were just playing and trading all night. And it was just like, I'll never forget it. For several months, I was walking around with that shopping bag full of muscle figures because it was just one of the most awesome possessions I've ever had. I would later return to the mall. I'd go there with like $3. I'd come out with at least 2 action figures. I remember going there and getting one of my all-time favorite figures, which was the Ninja from Chuck Norris. We really stocked up with toys, and I basically rebuilt my childhood toy collection. And so those times in Pasadena were really incredible. It was a great time. While we were there, my father bought a trailer, and he basically had it parked outside of the apartment. But what we didn't know is that my dad had the intention of us moving out of there and moving to a trailer park. So we did. Ultimately, we moved to a trailer park in Rosemead, California. This time we took all our toys with us. We made sure we took our toys. The bad thing was that there wasn't anywhere near that trailer park cool enough to go, with the exception of a comic store. So while we were living in the trailer park in Rosemead, what my father started doing almost every Sunday, religiously, he would go to the Santa Anita racetrack. He would kind of feel bad leaving us behind. And I remember what he would do is he'd drop us off at the Santa Anita Mall. We'd get to the racetrack maybe around 10, and he'd basically give my sister $20 so that she could spend on my younger brother and myself. What we would do is we would split those $20, and we had several choices. Either we can watch a movie, we can buy a toy, we can eat pizza and buy a toy. And most of the times, my younger brother and I would basically go for the pizza and the toy. And then there were times where we didn't even get the pizza, we just got toys. And so it was really cool. I remember that's around the time when Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles came out. And we would buy as many of those as we could. The first one I ever bought was Casey Jones. I loved that toy so much. I remember the very next day, I took him to school. I had a shirt with a front pocket, and I had Casey Jones in my front pocket all day. There was a lot of really cool G.I. Joes coming out around that time. And so I remember we were at the KB toy store, and they were being blown out. And so one day, my younger brother and I, we went and we just stocked up on G.I. Joes. My brother, I remember he bought himself a Rampart, and I bought myself a Shockwave and a vehicle known as the Pulverizer. So we'd be at the mall for about a good 7 or 8 hours. And so we'd sit there playing our toys, you know, in the fountains and playing in the fake shrubbery and things like that, and we'd have so much fun. Another really cool store was the Gamekeeper, and the Gamekeeper was sort of a role-playing game store. I bought my first pack of miniatures there, and then also another cool thing that they had at the toy stores there were the Endless Quest books from Dungeons and Dragons. And I remember I had bought a handful, most memorably the Return to Brookmere. I've read that book up and down, and I still read it to this day. It's just a great book. I mean, I really loved it. And that's all, you know, and those are basically my stories from the Santa Anita Mall. Eventually we would move, and we would move to Compton, and those years sucked because those years were all about growing up, middle school, high school. And I focused myself more on my illustration and girls and things like that. And so it's like, you know, unfortunately, toys were pretty much not a big part of my life anymore. Mainly because I just wasn't the age anymore, and I was into so many other things. And eventually, I'd go move to college, and that's where I would rediscover my love for toys.